Judge, this is case number 148 on the calendar in the matter of Zimbardi versus Hill. Parties have been sworn in. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Thank you, Bert. Ms. Zimbardi, the defendant was a roommate of yours.
Yes, Your Honor.
And it is your claim, she's no longer a roommate of yours, that she owes you for rent. And the rent you are alleging she owes you was someone else's rent. You understand that it is your claim that the defendant had an argument with one of your other roommates. Because of the argument which she aided, the other roommate moved out, and you believe because she was responsible for that argument, she should pay that roommate's share of the rent.
Yes, Your Honor, that's true.
Am I getting that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
That's your first claim.
Correct.
Your second claim is that at some point while she was your roommate, she parked her car in such a way that you could not get your car out.
Yes, that's
of
true.
Your parking spot. I'm just trying to get this all down right. You knocked at her door to tell her to move her car. She did not respond. So you went back to your car, found her car, and broke your mirror.
Yes, that's
in
what
the
happened.
process.
Correct.
And you also think she's responsible for that.
Yes, because if she wouldn't have...
So those are two things.
Yes.
Yes.
If she would not have been parked behind me, I could have gotten out easily.
And your counterclaim is that she made your life miserable as a roommate.
Yes, Your Honor.
Something about you getting a dog that she complained about, and I don't care. Neither does the law.
Right.
Okay, whether she reported you for having a dog and that would upset you, and nobody cares about that. So your counterclaim is dismissed. Well, but I may let you tell me
additional
why you
claims.
why you think she's responsible for your other roommate's rent, okay?
Yes. It was considered a house.
5 minutes of my time.
Okay, the rent was considered a house rent. We had all moved in together September 1st of 2019. None of us had known each other. And in that 2 weeks, she had an altercation with the other roommate. She had texted her she doesn't want her to move in, even though we tried to have a conversation about making things smooth so we can continue living together. I have text messages showing that she told her, I don't want you to move. You have a bad attitude. And from another roommate, which the same thing happened, that she was speaking to Brittany. She got bad responses from Brittany. She was rude to her, and she also didn't want to move in. And so then when the rent was due, I was the one who had to cover the $1,100. She said that because it was her fault that she would pay me back for it.
Well, I'd like to see somewhere, because do you acknowledge, Ms. Hill, that you agreed to pay her back for roommates that didn't move in?
Absolutely not. I'm not a subletter.
Okay,
I'm on the lease.
Listen to what I'm saying. Just answer my question.
Sure.
From her where she acknowledges that she will pay the rent for other people because they didn't move in because she said she didn't like them.
No, I don't have that in writing. I do have the in writing of her telling the roommate not to move in.
I don't need that.
Okay.
That's not an issue. She still wouldn't be responsible for their rent.
Well, it is a household rent, and our landlord has claimed time and time again that we're all responsible for the full amount.
Well, you are, but she doesn't owe you for anything. She owes the landlord. So now let me understand this. I just want to understand. The other roommates didn't move in. She doesn't live there anymore. Is that right? She doesn't live there anymore.
She just moved out this month.
Does she? The time she moved out, was she paying her rent?
No, she stopped paying rent in March of 2020. That's not part of the claim. My main claim request is back owed utility bills.
All right. Well, then let's get real, because she doesn't owe you for somebody else's rent, and she doesn't owe you because you couldn't back out your car.
If that was even true.
That's on you. You got to take responsibility. Just a second. I don't need your help. I've been doing this job a long time. If you, because of your misjudgment, have an accident, that's on you. That's not on her because she didn't move her car.
I understand, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, what you're suing her for, if what you're telling me is utilities, up until she moved out in November? November what?
I moved out December 5th.
Okay. And what utility bills are you referencing specifically?
I have 2 LADWP bills, 1 SoCal gas bill, and 1 Spectrum bill. All of the bills were in my name, so she owes me for all of them.
Okay. And during the prior time that you were living there, I assume that there were 4 roommates altogether?
At times 4, at times 3, because of COVID, one had moved out.
So she owes 25% of the utility bills. What are the total of the utility bills that were outstanding that she didn't pay?
She owes $531.61.
I want to know what the total was of the utility bills through when she moved out December 5th. not what you say her share is. My question was specific.
Well, I moved out in October, so that's when the bills are from.
You moved out in October.
Yes.
Leaving her there, and she didn't pay rent until March. Okay, so now let me see the utility bills. You acknowledge, Ms. Hill, that they were all in Ms. Zimbardi's name.
Yes.
And you are responsible for 25% of whatever is due and owing on the...
Correct.
Okay, so now let's see the final invoice of the utility bills. Give me the amount so that I don't have to look at it. The amount, the total amount due and owing on your last bill. First, the date of the first bill.
Well, the first bill was from September, and that's the total amount.
Well, did she pay that in September? You were all living
No.
there in September.
She didn't pay that.
When was the last time you paid a utility bill?
The last time I paid was in August.
Hill.
In September, I told her that I had to get my car fixed. My unemployment was backed up.
Okay, so she owes 25% of 1,030.
Well, I have 3 more bills.
Just a sec.
Okay. 3 of us living there. So we each paid a
I don't
third.
care.
Okay.
Okay, what's next?
The other
What's the
LADWP
next
bill
bill?
was the final bill after I moved out we received because it's a quarterly bill.
Okay, hold on. What's next?
This is our SoCal gas bill from that month.
What's next?
Spectrum bill, our internet, $65.
Next?
That was the last one.
Great. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $365. Your counterclaim has already been dismissed. This case is over. Thank you. This is what I understand. Both you and your husband, as well as the defendant, are collectors of exotic birds. For some reason you decided that you were no longer going to pursue the hobby, and you had acquired over the course of this hobby bird cages and a large outdoor aviary in your backyard, which is just a huge bird cage. Do you have photographs of those things, by the way?
Yes, we do.
May I see them, please? Just so I can get an idea of what I'm talking about.
Here's a picture of one of the cages that was purchased.
And you had 2. Were they similar?
The second one is larger and has, let me take this one down. And the other one looks, and it's larger, but the structure and
now,
the...
you bought these cages new, I assume, for
Yes.
your large birds. Now I want to see a picture of the outdoor aviary.
This is current day aviary.
Okay. It was in November of 2019 when you met the defendant. Defendant is also a collector of large or exotic birds. According to you, he agreed to buy 2 of the large bird cages, the ones that you showed me that were inside of your house, and he agreed to buy them for $1,000. He came, he picked them up. He did his word that he would pay you $250 a month until it was paid off. You didn't know him from a hole in the wall. You agreed to that. Didn't hear from him for a long time. Finally, he got in touch, and he sent you $100. In total, over several months, he sent you a total of $300, and then nothing else.
Judge Judy, we received
yes.
$200.
Only 2?
Yes.
$200. That's right. First payment was missed. He said his daughter needed braces. He missed another payment. He claimed his wife Ann had a stroke. December, he sent you a payment, and he sent another $100 at the end of January. And then he jumped. Now, the defendant says that he agreed to take the 2 cages and the outdoor aviary. Has a lot of reasons, and then COVID hit, and he said, just forget it. We don't want that big outdoor aviary, which looks like a piece of junk anyway. When you bought the 2 bird cages, do you recall how many years ago you bought them?
Approximately in 2001 on one of the cages. Later on, we replaced it with another cage in about 2010 or 11. But these were all indoor.
I want to know what you paid for the 2 cages that the defendant took.
One of them we paid $900 for. That was the beige large one. The dome cage we paid approximately $698. Piece that they had taken, which was a wrought iron indoor perch.
It was a standing perch for feeding.
And how much did you pay for that?
That perch was $298.
Okay. And all of these things were purchased over a 20-year period. Is
Yes,
that what you're telling me?
That is correct.
Okay. So in total, over a 20-year period, you paid approximately, if I believe it, because you don't have receipts for that, approximately $1,900.
That is correct.
Okay. Well, what your statement is, sir, is that they agreed to sell you what for how much?
Okay, it was...
I just want to hear.
Okay, it was the 2 cages, and then there was miscellaneous bowls and like...
For how much?
1,000.
Look at me.
1,000.
Okay. And you took the perch and you took the 2 cages.
Yes, ma'am.
And you paid nothing.
We agreed to do payments.
Well, you agreed to do payments, sir, because you came to pick up the stuff with no money.
Well, our agreement was...
You came... No. Was your initial agreement that you were going to make payments? Or did you come to pick up the cages with just no money and say, I'll make payments?
No, our agreement was to make payments.
Okay. You picked up the cages, the 2 cages and the perch, in what month?
It was November? Yes, ma'am.
And how much were you supposed to pay each month?
At first, it was $200, and then with everything that was going on with my
No, not everything. Just a second. When you picked up the cages,
it was supposed to be
how much was your agreement?
$200.
And when were the payments supposed to start? Is not an answer. In December.
I believe following month.
That's December.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you pay the $200 in December?
We didn't. She said 100 would be sufficient.
No, just a second. You didn't. You couldn't make the $200 payment. Did you call her?
Yes, I did.
And tell her that you couldn't make... You did.
Yes.
Did he call you?
Yes, after I contacted him via text.
Okay, so you contacted him.
Correct.
On what date did you contact him?
The contract was signed November 17th, 2019. And then...
Do you have a copy of the contract?
Yes, I do.
May I see it, please?
And I take that back. Trent did call on November 21st, and he claimed he was unable to make the first payment, too many bills.
He's just a scammer. He just scammed you, is really all. He owes you $800. He paid you $200. He agreed to pay you $1,000 for all of them. That's what he owes you. You're not supposed to do that to nice people, sir. You're not supposed to take the property. We're done. $800 judgment. Some convoluted story that the ring that was purchased, which I assume is in that box, which was your engagement ring, was purchased and your credit card was used. When you broke up, the ring went with Mr. Bambury, and you want him to pay for it.
Somewhat.
Well, you don't want to be stuck with the payments without the ring, right?
Exactly.
How much was the ring?
Total, I think it was $3,500.
Not around. How much was the ring?
It was 35 something. It doesn't show me the total amount here. It just shows me the last balance. It's $958.81. That's what's left.
So then let's talk about this. Let's talk about what an engagement ring is. Let's say he bought the engagement ring and you say he paid most of what it is.
Right.
You now have it back, right?
Yes.
And that's what I would do if you bought the ring and she kept it. Let's say you put the ring on your credit card, sir, and you broke up, and she refused to give you back the ring. You would sue her and say, I want the ring back, right?
Yes.
Because I bought it and I paid for it. You have the ring.
Yes.
She doesn't want to get stuck with this $958. Do you want the ring back?
Yeah.
Back the $958. That's very simple. The ring is given in contemplation of marriage. The marriage doesn't come off for one reason or another. Person who gave the ring gets it back. That would be you, but you got to pay for it. Then the ring is yours. You can sell it, recoup whatever you can get
Right.
from selling it to a private party. Can I see the ring? Just because I'm a little bit of a yenta.
And for me, it was the salespeople that talked me into getting the credit card.
It's very pretty. Before you try to sell it to anybody, clean it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Needs a good cleaning. Okay, anything else you want to tell me? Perfect. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $958.
That's case number 225 on the calendar in the matter of Manasseh versus Fleming Sutton. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
Mr. Manasseh, it is your claim that this young man here caused some damage to your car while he was riding his bicycle.
You're correct.
When did this happen?
July the 18th this year.
And you didn't see the incident?
Correct. I didn't see it happen.
But I gather from the complaint that there was video of the spot where your car was hit.
Yes, Your Honor.
Clearly showing that this young man hit your car while riding on his bike, right?
No, I hit his tire.
The tire is part of the car. Could you drive a car without a tire?
No.
So the defense is, in this case, yes, I hit the car, but no, I didn't cause damage. Is that where we're at?
Correct.
Yes.
See, I like to simplify these things.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Now let me see pictures of the damage. Damage is on the side of the car?
Yes, you're correct.
Okay. Would you show this to the defendants? See the damage?
Yes.
Okay. Now let's take a look. You have the video?
Yes, I do.
Have you ever seen the video before?
No, it's first time.
You don't know what you hit. What's your first name?
Antonio Fleming.
Antonio, you hit his car. Antonio, would you like us to play it for you in slow motion?
Yes.
I'd do better than that. I'll do better than that, Antonio. I'm going to show you a still picture. Do you see it? On the bottom.
Yes. Well, in the car, I don't see me hitting the car intentionally.
That showed you hitting the car, and you fell off your bike, right?
Yeah.
Now, when you fell off your bike, if we were to play this further, would we see you going back to the car to see what the damage was?
Yes,
or would we see you leaving, getting on your bike and driving away?
You can see me look at the car and then leave.
Would we?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's go back. Tough, right?
Yes.
I just want to see. That's not much of a look, Antonio.
Yeah,
that's not much of a look, my friend.
You only hit the tire, you hit the car.
Oh, stop it. Listen, your mother's already got a difficult enough job that you gave her because you couldn't control him, right?
Yes.
Good. So what you want to teach him is to take what?
Control.
Responsibility. The reason that he's living with your mother, because I read the complaint, is either because he was too hot to handle or your child. Those are the only two reasons. Do you understand?
Yes.
So what we do with children is try to teach them responsibility. Now, Antonio did not go over and look at the damage to this car. He went like that. Saw the video?
Yeah, I saw him go look over at the car.
Keep him.
All right.
Keep him. Ever been in trouble before?
A little bit, not really.
A little bit.
Yes, ma'am.
If you take responsibility for what you do right at the beginning, you don't have trouble. Generally speaking, you try to do the right thing, and if sometimes you have an accident, you certainly didn't mean to hit his car, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
You hurt yourself?
Yes.
You certainly sat down long enough to check yourself out and to wipe off your bloody knees?
No, I scraped my hand on the ground.
Okay, so you scraped your hand and you hurt your hand, whatever. So you took a couple of seconds to sit back and see what happened to you, right?
Yes.
I mean, I could count those. 1 100, 2 100, 3 100. I couldn't even blink at how long it took you to give a glance over to the car before you got on your bike and drove away. That's not what you do.
Well,
That's not what it was.
Well, I didn't know
You didn't hit his tire, sir. You hit his car.
No, I hit the tire.
Look like he hit the tire to me. From the video.
Play it again for you.
Play it again.
Play it again.
Let's
It looked
play
like
it
he
again
hit the
for
tire.
you. Let's play it again for you, and you show me where that you can see that
Well,
it hit
show
the tire.
me where it hit the car, though. It hit the tire. I couldn't even see. We was on the opposite side. How could I see him hit the car if I couldn't even see? We was on the wrong side. That video shows one side of the car, and
That's
all it did is show
absolutely
him hit.
correct.
Excuse me?
Why don't you open up your ears? Put on 2 listening ears. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Look at the video.
Okay.
Look at the plaintiff. Shut up. Look at the video. Look at the plaintiff. Let us talk about comments. He has damage to the side of the car, the quarter panel, no damage the day before. Start listening with your 2 ears and 1 mouth. Start listening.
I'm listening.
He has no damage to his car. The next day, he comes out and he finds damage to his car in the exact same spot that this video indicates that your son hit. That side, the rear of the car, on the passenger side, right?
Yes.
Now, unless you think that maybe somebody in the middle of the night or at the same time also came and hit his car in the same spot where your son hit his, that is, common sense would dictate that you say, you may have thought you only hit his tire, Antonio, but you scratched his car. Not that the scratch fairy scratched his car, and it just so happened that the scratch fairy scratched his car on the same day as your son hit his car with your bike. Now do we understand each other?
Yes.
He hit the tire. He hit the tire, not the car.
Oh, the family. Marginal. That's not your fault. What I'm telling you is, you're the third generation. It's got to stop, Antonio. It's not my fault. It's not my responsibility. It has to stop. Do you understand the logic of what I was trying to tell your mother? And your grandmother, I assume, was listening with both of her ears and only one mouth?
Yeah.
Do you understand the logic of what I said to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it very logical?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, how much did it cost to fix your car?
$664 and some change.
Judgment for the plaintiff, that's all. If you were at a club, there was an argument, and after you both left the club, each of you claimed the other caused damage to their car. You have a claim, you have a counterclaim. Miss Whiteside, it is your claim that leaves the club.
Yes, ma'am.
By whom was she asked to leave the club?
Security. She was escorted out.
Tell me the circumstances surrounding her being asked to leave the bar.
Well, my boyfriend, him and his friends are a local rap group. They had open mic night, so all the local rappers, come and rap. One of the rappers were rapping. The defendant here heard him rapping. By my knowledge, from what I saw...
I just want you to tell me what you saw. Just tell me what you saw and don't make it up.
I know.
Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
The defendant came and she put her dress up. But to the rapper. Apparently, she didn't know his wife was there. Me and his wife were friends. His wife said something to her, and they started going back and forth.
You mean shouting back and forth at each other?
And cursing and everything, yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
So I tell the girl, just shut up.
Which girl?
His wife. I tell her, I'm like, just shut up. You see what kind of person she is. She's already showed you what kind of person she is. Next thing I know, her witness comes and jumps in my face. She's slapping her hands. She's jumping up and down. And I'm standing there looking like, well, who are you? And she's like, oh, F you and da-da-da-da. And so security comes and they intervene. Jump over security. She snatches a bottle out of somebody's hand, a bottle of water. She takes the bottle of water and she's throwing it on stage and going off and jumping over security. Security's like, we didn't have enough of this. They escort them out. So after they finish performing, we're getting ready to walk out together. Everybody's walking out together. And so they're like, don't walk out by yourself.
Don't tell me what anybody else said.
Okay.
Just tell me what you did and what you saw and what you heard.
So I'm getting ready to get in my car. As soon as I get one foot in the door, all I hear is, there go that B right there. So I'm like, what the heck? So I hurry up and slam the door and start the car up. And next thing I know, they're up against my back passenger window trying to bust the window out with her hand. So I put the car in drive and I drive forward. I didn't know that the entrance to the parking lot was the exit. It's one way in, one way out. And when I realized this, I had to turn around to get out of the parking lot. So I put the car in drive again, and next thing I know, the witness over here again is on the back of my car. And she's pounding on the back of the car. So I finally try to maneuver out to turn around and get out the parking lot. The defendant here boxes me in between a fence and her truck in a parking spot. So when I finally maneuver, sign right in front of the club, it's a stop sign. So I'm stopping, and when I look in the rearview mirror, I see some headlights speeding up. So I'm turning, and as soon as I turn, she didn't stop at the stop sign. She hits the back quarter panel of my car by the back bumper. So at this time, I'm trying to get my phone to call the police. I'm still driving. She speeds up again and jumps beside me. At this time, she takes her steering wheel, and my little Malibu takes it, bam, hits it again. I'm like, oh my God. So while I'm trying to call the police, she hit the car the second time.
An accident, and the car was totaled.
She hit my car, and then it spun around.
Whoever her boyfriend was took an interest, and he was rapping, and we just dancing, and she like, oh no, I know you ain't looking at her. So my witness was like, nah, we about to, to her, and they get to arguing. I'm like, you know what? We ain't got time for this. We have to go. I grabbed her. Never was put out by security.
Could you slow down?
I'm sorry. So we leave to go out to my car. It starts raining. She comes out. My witness does go up to her window and tries to break her window.
Why?
Because of the incident.
Why?
It was just, I was angry at the fact that what happened inside the club. It was just all over nothing, basically.
So you go to her car and try to break the window?
Yes, ma'am, I do admit that.
Go ahead.
So I noticed her being on the window, so I get out my truck and I grab her, put her in the truck. Security comes out like, no, y'all gotta go, it's time to go. They make her leave first. Never was she ever fenced in by my truck. Then I leave. As she said, they let her leave about 5 minutes before they even let me leave. So when I pull out, I notice she's in the left-hand lane, I'm in the right-hand lane. We're driving, I feel a tap. I look over, it's like she's trying to cut in my lane to try to be cute. So, she went to do it again, so I slammed on my brakes. And when I slammed on my brakes, it's like she spun out of control and she hit it was a fire hydrant, never was at a wall.
Your Honor, I have pictures here to show the damage.
I'd like to see it.
Ma'am,
I'd like to see them. were you doing driving a car without a driver's license?
It was something going on with my insurance. They had canceled it because they thought I didn't pay it in time. I do have my license.
You didn't have your license that day.
They thought it was an error with the insurance, and I took care of that when I went to court.
Why were you driving a car without a valid? When the police stopped you and asked you for your license, what did you tell them?
I gave them my license when I had it.
Did you? Because they also say that you were cited for no driver's license and failure to display a license.
I gave them
and
a
no front license plate on your truck. Miss Robinson, Miss Whiteside's car has evidence of being damaged on the side, which would be consistent with her story. Not only does she have damage in the front, but she has damage to the side of her car. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
She have a hot temper?
Sometimes.
How many times did she get out of the car or go over to her car to try to break the windows? One or two?
She did twice.
One or two?
Twice.
Twice?
Yes.
And you let her... How much did your friend had to drink that night?
Quite a bit. Your Honor, may I say something?
About what?
I don't know how she ended up getting in the club, the witness, because it's a 21 and up bar, and she's only 18.
Whose license were you using?
I had they didn't even ID me. I had my own.
You must have had somebody else's just as a backup.
No, ma'am, I didn't.
Well, you know, there are reasons, madam, why the law says that people who are under 21 shouldn't drink, and that's because they're not old enough to control themselves, and your behavior that night is a testament to the wisdom.
Judy.
Now, what was the damage to your car, and how much out-of-pocket expense did you have?
The damage to the car, it was total out. I ended up having to pay $250 twice, so it's $535.
Well, $250 twice is $500.
And they charged $35 for something else.
Okay.
What it is, I'm not sure.
So far we have $535 that you can prove, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
What else?
And punitive damages as well.
So far your out-of-pocket expenses that you can prove.
And since this accident, she didn't have insurance. My insurance ended up having to pay for everything. And in turns, I got
kicked. Just a second. So you had no insurance either?
I had insurance.
Well, why didn't your insurance pay for the damage?
Because I wasn't cited.
You had no insurance, madam, because you had no valid driver's license. And if you have no valid driver's license, you have no insurance. Do you understand?
I understand.
Perfect. Ms. Robinson, you look like you have to make better and more wise decisions with regard to the people that you hang around with and do the right thing, because when you don't do the right thing, sometimes you get caught. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. $1,000. Thank you. The other $500 is for punitive damages.
It's case number 215 on the calendar in the matter of Austin versus Sanders.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, huh?
Miss Austin, Mr. Sanders is your stepfather.
Correct.
This is your mom?
Correct.
How old are you?
I'm 31.
There came a time when you needed a car, and your stepfather told you that if you wanted to, you could take over the payments on his 2007 Lexus. Is that what it was? That you would purchase when, sir?
Wait, 2017.
And when did you make this offer to your stepdaughter?
Sometime in October of 2017.
Had you had a car before that?
Your Honor, no, I had not had a car.
You had a car?
The majority of 2017.
I'm talking about ever.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Cars that you purchased?
Absolutely, yes.
Did you make payments on those cars?
I did.
Give me an idea of what you made in payments on those cars.
Maybe like $300 to maybe $400 in payments.
Were any of those cars repossessed?
Yes.
How many of them were repossessed?
One of them.
And when was that car repossessed?
April of 2017, I believe.
And it was repossessed because you weren't making the payments on it?
That's correct.
Why weren't you making the payments?
My daughter's dad, and he was actually assisting me with making payments. Once him and I broke up, he stopped making payments for her altogether. So I took on full ownership as a single mother. And once I had on that bulk of responsibility, I couldn't make that high payment any longer.
And what was that car payment?
That car payment was like $450.
So you really needed a car?
That entire year, I definitely needed a car.
Great.
Absolutely.
So in October, your stepfather said, if you want to take over the payments of this car that I recently bought, it's an older car, it's 10 years old, how much were the car payments on that car?
I made approximately $400 in payments to him a month.
$400 to him or to the bank?
The loan was in his name, so even though I may go as under him.
I'm asking you whether you made the payments to him or whether you made the payments to the bank when you were driving the car.
I've made them to the bank. I've actually walked to the loan company or mailed them. Correct.
And you got the car in November?
I did.
And the payments were $400 a month, sir?
$371.
So about $80 less than what you were paying on the $450 car that was repossessed?
Correct.
And you got the car in November?
Correct.
So did you make December's car payment?
I did not make December's car payment to the bank.
Did you pay in January?
I did not.
Did you pay in February?
I did.
How much?
$400. I paid in March, but I made March payment.
What does that mean?
In April, I actually made a payment for March, April, and May.
Now, follow where I'm going. In March, did you or did you not make a payment in March?
Not in March.
So now you've driven the car December, January, February, and March, and made one payment in February.
That is correct as far as payments are concerned.
April, did you make a payment?
Yes.
How much?
$1,200.
So now you are caught up December, January, and March, correct?
My stepdad and I had an actual barter agreement that went deeper than actually making the $400 payments alone. He didn't actually offer me the car, so let me allow you to have this car. The car was given to me because him and my mom have a odd relationship.
Listen to me. You want to talk about your mother and your stepfather's odd relationship, go on Dr. Phil, if he wants to go with you. I'm figuring out you had an arrangement where you were supposed to make car payments. You had the car in December, you didn't make a payment. You had the car in January, you didn't make a payment. You made a payment in February. March, you didn't make a payment. In April, you made a $1,200 payment, which takes you current for December, January, and March. Now, did you make a payment in May?
No, because in April, that was the payment, Your Honor.
It was not. Did you make a payment in June?
No.
Did you have the car in June?
Yes.
Did you make a payment in July?
I did, yes.
How much?
For $320.
$320.
Correct.
August.
August is when he took the car back.
So let me understand this. You had the car December, January, you made no payment. You made a payment in February. March, you made no payment. In April, you made a payment of $1,200, which brought you then current for December, January, and March, leaving April unpaid, May unpaid, June unpaid, and you owed money in July because you didn't make the full payment. That's what you just told me. You have the car 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months. 371 times 7 equals $2,597. That's what you should have made in payments.
Well, Your Honor, we had an agreement,
just
though.
a second. You made $1,920 in payments. And you should have made $2,597 or $2,600 in payments. What are you suing for?
Because, again, Your Honor, him and I had an oral agreement that if I was not able to make, again, the car was only given to me because of the fact.
Listen to me. I don't want to hear the nonsense that you put in here. Do you understand? I'm not interested in the about your mother and you wanting to watch over your father, wanting to know where he was and what he was doing. I'm not interested.
Okay.
You had a car. You were driving around in the car, and you were paying for the car.
I was also helping my stepdad get to work. I was also picking him up, gas, taking him to work every day. So there has to be some form of compensation for that as well. Or that was our bartering oral agreement that we had. For the times when I could not make a car payment, I'd communicate with him, and I also was responsible for taking him to and from work. Regardless of keeping up with him, that's not my concern. It's just the fact that I did put the effort in, and I followed the agreement as we had described with one another.
Yeah.
I stayed honest with it, and I communicated with him.
You think about it in terms of you paid $271 a month for the 7 months that you had the car. That's what it comes down to. That's what your payments come down to. $271 a month to drive around in a relatively nice car. And then you didn't make payments. You didn't make payments most of April, May, and June, and July. You came up short. Ridiculous.
But, Your Honor, the people who I would rent the car from, I wouldn't be doing anything for them either. So,
There's a reason you got your last car repossessed, because you didn't make the payments. And you got this car repossessed because you didn't make the payments.
No.
There's a trend here.
Well, on August the 6th, I got my car repossessed because I wouldn't take my mother to Publix. Up until this point, me and Willie had pure correspondence with the car. He never told me he was taking the car back. If my loan company told me they were going to take the car back, they called me and they let me know that was going to happen. So I was aware of that.
Just a second. It's not your loan company. Is your name on the loan?
Exactly, it's not. But we do have
Just a
text
second.
messages.
Is your name on the loan?
No, it is not.
Do you have a job?
Yes, I do.
What kind of job?
I promote for computer processors.
Do you do that on a weekly salary basis?
I get paid every 2 weeks.
How much?
How much I get paid every 2 weeks, or how much an hour?
Are you paid by the hour?
I'm paid by the hour.
Great. Do you work?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a chemical operator.
And you get paid weekly, bi-weekly?
Bi-weekly.
So when you don't make a car payment to the bank on his behalf, that's not his. When you don't pay April, May, June, shortchange him in July, don't pay in December, don't pay in January, do a big catch-up, that's all on his credit, not on yours. You can't get credit because you already had a car repossessed, so nobody's going to give you a whole bunch of money. You have, you have no case, period.
Now,
you drove a rental car for $271.
I'm also suing him for the punitive damages for the false police report because the day of the repossession for no payment, he called the police and said that I was assaulting my mother when he was repossessing the car, which I had no aware. I was coming to pick him up so he could even go to work because they didn't have the ability to get to work. They didn't have a car taxi driver, so not only am I a promoter at work, I'm also a taxi car driver, but now you're saying I should do it for free.
Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. If you had your own car, you wouldn't be responsible for taking your stepfather to work, running errands for your mother. Take care of yourself. You're a 31-year-old woman. Do whatever you have to do.
But
you have
that
a counterclaim for what?
I'm counterclaiming because of the late payments and the payments she didn't make and that I had to make, and then plus she didn't put insurance on the car.
Just forget the insurance.
Okay.
Forget that. How many months did you have to make up during the time she had the car?
I made 3 months.
Well, let's figure it out. She had the car for 7 months. So, $25.90. She actually paid $1,920 in payments. $677. That's what she owes you. That's the difference. When she drove the car, what she was supposed to have paid and what she did pay. $677. Judgment on the counterclaim. We're finished. Thank you.
Okay, what about the repairs that I made for the car, Your Honor, and the false police report? I have a police statement.
How long have you been using the defendants as dog groomers?
Since 2010, Your Honor.
So how many times do you think in total you've used the defendant's services to groom your dog?
Every month since 2010.
That's a lot of time. So you haven't had any difficulty, correct?
Yes.
This last time it is your claim that the defendant, I don't know which one, broke a nail on your dog, which ultimately caused an infection, which ultimately caused that digit to have to be amputated.
Yes, Your Honor.
Not the foot, but just the little digit. And you want them to be responsible for the vet bills.
Yes,
That's with the dog?
One of our employees.
Where is that employee?
She is at work right now.
Why?
We had to be here since we are the owners.
Well, you could have one owner and the employee who actually did the work.
That's true.
Well, why didn't you do that?
I'm not sure, Your Honor.
Were you there when the dog was groomed?
I was there. I mean, not physically watching every second, but I was
physically there, watching every second.
Yes.
She wasn't there.
No.
Where do you come from?
Marina Valley.
Where is that?
It's about an hour and a half from LA.
Did you drive here?
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why you didn't bring the dog groomer. Bizarre. On what date did you take the dog?
June 15.
That was the last visit?
Yes, Your Honor.
And when you picked the dog up from the groomer, did you have a conversation with anyone?
Usually I just pick up the dog.
Picked up the dog and paid it?
Mm-hmm.
On what date did you take the dog to the vet?
I take dog to the vet on June 29 in the morning.
2 weeks later?
Yes.
Why?
Because I don't see it.
When did you first see that there was a problem with the nail?
June 28 in the evening. And next day in the morning, I immediately take him to the doctor.
So the first time you saw the dog with anything wrong was 2 weeks after the grooming?
Yes, Your Honor.
How many dog groomers do you have?
Ourselves, and then we have 2 more.
How many times have you personally groomed this dog?
Gosh, a handful of times, maybe.
How many times have you personally groomed this dog?
Probably more than 20.
The name of the groomer who groomed the dog that day?
Monica.
How long has Monica been working for you?
About 2 years.
How many times has Monica groomed the plaintiff's dog?
About 5 times or so, maybe.
She a full-time employee? The initial report from the vet. This isn't the initial report from the vet. This is in September. I'm looking for the initial report from the vet. Where is the initial report?
This is from June 29 and the September 4th.
I'm not interested in September 4th. June 29th. It says medication. It says to keep the dog bandaged. It doesn't say what the cause of this nail was, which is, I assume, why you were given an antibiotic.
The nail was removed.
I know that, but you have to connect that to the defendants. You took the dog in 2 weeks later.
I can explain, Your Honor.
Go ahead. This nail was?
The nail was removed.
I know that, but you have to connect that to the defendants. You took the dog in 2 weeks later.
I can explain, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Infection was, I have the pictures. So
Don't show me any pictures. I want to know if there was something wrong with the dog's nail when you brought it back from the groomer, why you didn't take it to the vet. And if you say to me, I didn't see anything wrong until the 28th of June.
Yes.
And you took the dog right in on the 29th of June.
Yes.
You still have to connect what was wrong with the dog with the groomer.
The mole, I don't think I see this when I check it.
You still have to connect. The dog walks around. I have dogs. Sometimes a dog's nail breaks. Sometimes they step on something. Sometimes they fracture. I just need a connection between what happened on June 15th and what you saw on June 28th. The doctor doesn't say that unless I'm missing it.
I can explain
You can't explain it to me unless it's in here.
The infection was already big when I see this, and it's like about 2 weeks.
I have no idea, and you're guessing. You haven't put together the infection 2 weeks later and anything that was done at the groomers. You have to put that together. Just me. they're responsible.
The nail was broken a little bit by the nail bed, so it was not broken nails like the broken nails. So it was a little crack by the nail bed. So I don't see it. I see it only when it shows up.
You're guessing. What I'm telling you is you're guessing. It was just a little crack, so you didn't see it. So you didn't see anything. You can't tell me what you didn't see. What you told me was the dog was groomed on June 15th. You didn't see anything wrong with the dog until 2 weeks later when you took the dog to the vet.
Yes.
Now I'm telling you that unless there's no vet here, that the infection was caused by somebody clipping the dog's nails or some other reason, they're not responsible for your vet bills because it could have happened anywhere. 10 days before, 9 days before, 8 days before, 7 days before. It could have happened anytime. Could have had a problem and got infected because dogs walk in the street where it's dirty and there's bacteria. I can't put that on the groomers.
The dog, inside dog, he don't go outside, only in the backyard.
I tried to explain it to you. If I can't explain it to you any better, I'm sorry, Ms. Castillo. Your case is dismissed.
Can I give you the stand?
Just a second. Did you take any pictures of the dog on June 15th?
Not on June 15th.
Did you take any pictures of the dog on June 16th? No. 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th. I'm not interested in you showing me pictures of, it's not relevant. You haven't proved a connection between the dog's injury and something that they did wrong. And that's what you have to prove.
Because this infection, right about the 2 weeks.
This is case number 456 on the calendar in the matter of Steenkoek versus Galili Ivanova.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Mr. Steenkoek, do you own this dog or are you walking the dog?
I own the dog.
And what kind of a dog is it?
Miniature Dachshund.
How long have you had it?
3 years.
They're sometimes scrappers, aren't they?
Yes, ma'am.
They think they're a Rottweiler sometimes. Does yours?
No, my dog is very, very calm.
Doesn't bark?
No.
Ever. Well, you were walking your dog on the leash, and I assume you were the dog walker.
Yes, ma'am.
And you were walking their dog.
Yes, ma'am.
You weren't present.
My husband wasn't present, and I was on a balcony on the 3rd floor on my apartment.
Did you see what happened?
I didn't see exactly what happened, but I saw the aftermath.
Okay, but you didn't see what happened?
No, I
So why don't you two sit down? So you're walking your dachshund on a leash, and you're walking...
Your Honor, I wasn't walking my dog. My friend was watching my dog and was walking it for me.
Oh, then you sit down. What's your last name?
Stratton, ma'am.
So you were walking the very quiet dachshund.
Yes.
And you were walking what kind of dog?
I was walking a very quiet boxer mix on leash.
Had you walked the dog before?
Yes, ma'am.
Had you walked this dog before?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, it is your claim that her dog bit his dog.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you want the owners to be responsible
Yes, Your Honor.
for the vet bills, etc. The defendants say that they were doing the right thing, that your dog actually caused the problem, and you were bitten in the...
Not exactly bitten, but I had self-inflicted wounds when pulling the dog fight apart.
So you have a countersuit?
Yes.
So why don't you tell me what happened, your version?
So as I was finishing a walk, coming back down the alleyway, there's a set of stairs that lead down those stairs with her dog, and so I was about to go up those stairs. So I was approaching, being very cautious.
You were on the stairs?
I was approaching the stairs.
Okay, and she was coming down the stairs?
I believe she'd recently come from there. In either case, she was coming down the alley, and I was going the other direction, so we were going to cross paths.
Okay.
Regardless of the exact date. So as we approached, being cautious, I had the dog on a short leash. She had her dog on a short leash as well, so we're both in control of our dogs. The dogs came together. It was a very normal interaction. There was no sign of aggression from either dog, so no growling, no barking. Dogs sniffed each other nose to nose for a moment, and then her dog attacked and bit my friend's dog, at which point I started to try to punch dogs to separate. Nothing seemed to be working. I also tried to separate, pull the dog's jaws apart. I sustained some injuries there, and I have a picture of that. I can show you those injuries. Eventually, I put pressure on its left eye. As I applied pressure there, their dog let go. At that point, I picked up the dog, ran to the front of the apartment building. As I was getting my keys, her dog came around up on the landing. It was unaccompanied, and it stopped short. It did not attack. It showed no signs of aggression, which was very disconcerting to me at that point because the dog just had a very playful look on its face, almost like when you're playing fetch and you're about to throw the ball again. You're like, so are you going to throw the ball again? Like, let's keep doing this.
But don't try to psych out the dog. The dog was with a leash.
On the leash, but without the walker. The leash was still there, attached to its collar, as clearly as I can remember. So at that point, her dog didn't continue the attack, and I was able to get my keys, and she'd come back around and take control of the dog again, and then I was able to go in.
So she came around and picked up the leash?
Yes. Then I went in, figured out where to take the dog for the vet, and then proceeded with various veterinary clinics.
Out of the leash. So once I opened the jaws and Brian grabbed the dog, Rocco is the name of my friend's dog. He ran after them, and I did not have a control of the leash due to prior events. And Brian ran with the dog. My friend's dog ran after them. I ran after the dog. We're in the back alley. Brian ran to 5 to 7 seconds. Rocco was running free. I was running after Rocco. I caught up with them by the front entrance of the building. Brian was standing holding the little dog, and Rocco was sitting in front of them, not attacking, like Brian said. And then I grabbed control of the leash, and then Jenna showed up on the front meeting us. And then everybody proceeded to their apartments dealing with bites and whatnot.
How often do you walk this dog?
I started walking him about early summer, so it must have been around 10 times that we've taken walks together with him.
There must be something about the dog that you know is potentially dangerous.
He's not a big fan of little things, and by that, rats, small dogs. But other than that, he's extremely friendly with people.
But he doesn't like smaller dogs.
He doesn't like
dogs that don't.
Yeah, and even people are allowed. Whatever is the personal space that you don't get into. When someone's right in your face, I think that provokes a very reasonable reaction.
Was the plaintiff's dog on an extended leash?
Yes, he was on the leash, but he was not locked on the leash. He had room to walk. Or
How much?
I would say about 5 meters, if I could speak in meters, because I'm not very good with the...
Point to something in this room.
From me
where you
to
are.
To the state, to the where you're sitting.
To here. Or at the time, so that at the time that your dog latched on to his dog's leg, he had to sort of move closer to where the action was.
Yes, except that everybody's running at that point already, so that's a couple of seconds, but yes.
Had you ever seen the dog walker before?
I have
walking the
never had
dachshund?
Brian before.
Never?
Never.
How many times have you walked the dogs?
Handful of times. I had dog sat once before, so 5, 10 times.
Miss Ivanova has walked this dog frequently and knows that it doesn't like small dogs and small animals. So when she says to me, not a good idea, we're bigger, I believe her.
Sure.
I believe that she said it to you.
That could very well be.
Maybe, but I believe she said it to you. And I don't believe that the defendants are at fault. Their dog was leashed, their dog was under their control, and if anybody's dog was not fully under their control, it was yours. Because if I believe the fact that she said, not a good idea, and she's got her dog heeled to her side, and your dog ran up to her, you not heeding the warning, then they're not responsible for any of your vet bills or any of your injuries.
Your Honor, that's not true, though. She said my dog was on a long leash. I have pictures of the leash my dog was on.
She didn't say it was a long leash, sir.
5 meters is significantly longer than the picture we can show of how long the leash is.
I believe her dog was heeled to her side. Give on your dog's leash, then on hers, and the dachshund ran up to her dog that was heeled to her side. She can't pick it up and hold it over her head. All she can do is heel it to her side and say, not a good idea.
Yes, Your Honor.
Your Honor.
You got it?
Yes.
So she's not responsible for the vet bills or the injuries, because I would have to find that she would have had some alternative thing to do, and she had none. She did exactly what she thought was right, which was right. She healed her dog, and you don't deny that.
I also healed mine.
No, you didn't.
I did.
Because if you don't believe it,
that's fine.
I don't believe that you healed your dog. I don't believe that you healed your dog. Because if you healed your dog, and if I believe, and I do believe she said to you, not a good idea, then you would have taken a wider berth, and your dog wouldn't have been injured.
I did not receive that communication,
Okay.
so if she said
Sorry,
it, I didn't
that's what I
hear it.
believe. So your case is dismissed. Now, did you seek medical attention?
Yes, I did.
I'd like to see the bill.
Would you also like to see just the bill, not the summary of the visit?
Yeah, both.
Oh, so this is just the bill, the summary of the visit. And there's one more. So the day that I had to take off.
No, I just want to see the medical, not talking about your lost wages and your pain and suffering. I'm just talking about the bill. So you had bills totaling $110. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Judgment on the counterclaim for $110. Your
May I
claim is
present?
dismissed. That's it. Defendant is your former girlfriend, and it is your claim that you made a $2,000 loan to her when you were no longer a couple. Ms. Connolly said that there was never any loan, that you actually were paying her for damage that you did to her car while in a peak of being annoyed. Were you and Miss Connolly a couple?
Started dating Miss Connolly like March of 2012, and we were a couple for a good year and a half.
And when was this alleged loan?
In August 2000, we purchased a Grand Prix from, I want to say, a family friend of theirs. At the time, Miss Connolly gave I believe it was her aunt from her dad, $1,500. As she had the car, she asked me for a previous loan of like $670 to pay off some title taxes or something. So I loaned her the money for that. She paid me back. So I had no problems giving her the $2,000 to finish paying off the car to her aunt.
Well, tell me about it. Tell me, you were no longer a couple at this point, so she called you and said...
Oh, we were friends. You know, we still communicated with each other, seen each other, went out occasionally. At this time, like I said, she called me up, asked me if there was a possibility of debt, and I said, sure. Her and her father and another gentleman came to my house. I gave Miss Conley the $2,000, which then at that time she gave the money to her father, who was going to pay back the loan to her aunt for the car, which in process, Miss Conley gave me an H&R Block card, says she has some income tax money back, that's how she was going to pay me, and handed me the title of the car until she paid me off. Well, a month went by, you know, it was back and forth, she did this, that, her house got broken into, the income tax thing wasn't right, she had to go get paperwork, send it back in, so I just assumed it was not going to happen, the loan was going to be paid back, so I went and put the title in my name. It was retitled back into Miss Conley's fiance's name, which at that time, when I came to her house to get the car, she had moved out, didn't know where she was at, nothing. I called the police while I was stationed at her last residence. They came there. He did some investigation on his computer, told me that the car was basically put in two people's name right now, that I had to get some paperwork, fill it out, send it to Secretary of State for a fraudulent title. So they sent me the paperwork, and I talked to the gentleman at Secretary of State, you know, about the case. Unfortunately, he's ill till April, so I have to wait till he comes back to finish finding out. As I know, Miss Conley got the car back, which was in her fiance's name, and sold the car to somebody else when they got it back.
What kind of car was it?
It was a 2004 Grand Prix.
Bird, look up the cost of that, would you?
Sold on Craigslist.
When?
I had to sell it right out of the impound when they recovered it from stolen. So I think the exact date would be September, October of 2015.
How much did you pay your aunt for the car?
$1,500. But I didn't pay her for this car. I inherited the 2004 Pontiac Grand Prix.
From whom?
My grandfather. He passed away in 2014.
So what was the $2,000 for?
He damaged my vehicle.
Tell me about it.
He stole 2 headlights and bleached the inside of the gas tank, stole my keys.
When did he do that?
In 2014 is when he did the headlights and the bleaching of the gas tank. 2015, he purposely hit the back end of the Grand Prix. I was calling the police. He took the license plate off the back of the car. He was enraged. He was jumping up and down on the license plate, put it in his truck. When the police got there, he pulled out a title with his name on it. I have no idea how he got a title with his name on it. There was never an agreement.
Tell me about the exchange of $2,000.
He gave my father $2,000 because he was trying to get back with me.
When?
August 2015. He gave my father $2,000.
And what was that?
My vehicle in 2014.
What did you do to her vehicle in 2014?
I never touched her vehicle, Your Honor. I have no idea what she's even talking about.
You have a police report with regard to that 2014 incident?
I called the police.
No, that's a very good...
No, I do not.
You do not?
No.
So he vandalized your car in 2014. You were no longer a couple at that point?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't understand why you wouldn't have contacted the police, especially since you told me that subsequently he acted like a madman. Did you ever seek a protective order from him?
No, ma'am. We were on and off for years.
Mm-hmm. Could you please tell me what the value is of that car, the 2004 Grand Prix? And you sold it on Craigslist?
Yes, ma'am.
How much did you get for it?
$1,600. I wasn't working at the time, so I had to sell the vehicle to get it out of the impound.
That's all right. You sold it. You didn't pay anything for it, right? So you made some money. Okay. So you want me to believe that the $2,000 that you acknowledge that he gave you for
he didn't
the
give
repair.
It to me. He gave it to my father.
Well, you went there with your father. For the repair of damage that he did in 2014.
Yes.
Despite the fact that you tell me that you were on again, off again for years, even in 2015, when he gave you the $2,000.
He didn't give me $2,000, and I wasn't there when he gave the $2,000 to my father.
Is that right?
No, because this was given to her on a Tuesday afternoon. Thursday, we all went to the football game, Detroit Lions football game.
Is that right?
Me, her, and her father, because they have season tickets.
Is that right?
Yes, it is.
And what you're telling me is the $2,000 she said she needed towards another car?
Loan for the car.
Oh, there was a loan on this.
She bought the car for $3,500. Her father gave her aunt $1,500 down. She owed the remaining $2,000.
To the aunt?
To the aunt, till I gave her the $2,000.
For the grandfather's car?
Yes.
He's not that swift to make up that story. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,000.
It's case number 164 on the calendar in the matter of Boatwright versus Brown.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Oh. All right, Mr. Brown, I'm going to start with you, sir. There is no question that you took some money from Miss Boatwright. How much money did you take from her?
About $360. $360.91, the price for the key.
$361?
Yes, ma'am.
And how many times did you meet Miss Boatwright?
Overall, or just?
Overall, how many times did you meet?
Three or four times.
How many times did you meet?
Around that, yeah.
And you met on Facebook?
Yes.
You reached out to him?
I did.
When was that?
It was about a little over a year ago.
And in what month did you give him this $361?
Oh, the exact date was August 2nd of 2018. And I didn't actually give it to him. I paid directly to Mercedes.
You mean for something for his car?
Yeah, it was for a key fob. That didn't work any longer.
And he asked you for it?
No, not exactly. Can I explain?
Okay. Did he ask you for the money?
Well, I offered to lend it to him, and he agreed to pay me in 10 to 14 days.
Is that true? No, look at me.
True.
Well, if it's somewhat true that you had trouble with your car that wouldn't start because of the key fob, and either you agreed to pay her or you didn't agree to pay her.
We had several conversations about it. It wasn't just one conversation about it.
Well, let's talk about the initial conversation. In the initial conversation, when she offered you this money,
yes,
did you tell her that you would pay her back?
In the initial conversation, yes. But
yes.
We had conversations before she gave me the money.
Well, that's the initial conversation.
Yes.
The initial conversation, you said you would pay her back.
Yes.
And
I have text messages.
He admits it, which is
between me.
Between you saying, if you pay this to Mercedes, I'll pay you back in a couple of weeks or whenever. Why didn't you pay her?
Well, it was like a really tight situation at that time.
What do you mean? I don't understand what you mean. Tight. You mean tight financial for you?
Yeah, just tight financially, tight the situation that was going on. I had just moved and I had surgery in the same week. And my car broke down.
So that's okay. All of those things are stressors on you. Yeah. That doesn't change the legal obligation to pay her back the $361.
Well, I told her after the initial conversation that I'm not sure so much on my plate.
Well, you can't get the money.
It was before she gave me the money.
It was before she gave you the money. So before she gave you the money, you said, you know what? I said I could pay you back, but I don't think I can. I have too much going on.
Yeah.
Is that what happened?
Somewhere along the lines, yeah.
Is that right?
No. Even after giving him the money, he agreed that he was going to pay it back.
And you have text messages to prove that. So you want to change your story?
Oh, I have the text messages where I said to her.
I'd like to see the text message in and around August of this year where he says he's going to pay you back.
So I'm assuming that the conversation we had in person and over the phone doesn't count.
There was no such conversation.
I'm question, sir.
Here we go.
Shucks.
I mean, if I was known I was getting sued, I probably would have kept a lot of these conversations.
Okay, so that's $361 that you owe her. And she has an additional claim, sir, that's a little more distressing to me. And that's an additional claim for medical expenses. After she asked you back for this money, did you make a threat to her?
No, I didn't make a threat to her.
Did he?
She actually threatened me, actually.
Well.
So what I had said on Facebook was, you need to pay me my money on Facebook, that you owe me money. And then he proceeded to text me back with a whole lot of nonsense and saying, you know, you go ahead and embarrass yourself and your kids. I'll do it for you. Well, it wouldn't be embarrassing to me that you owe me money and you're not paying me.
Right.
So I believe he was referring to him telling me that I gave him gonorrhea, which I have my test results. I did not.
Just a second. When did he tell you
So
that?
the 15th, the day that he was supposed to pay me the money, we were supposed to meet up that night. That morning, he texted me telling me that he found out he has gonorrhea and that I gave it to him. So I freaked out. I was crying. I was like, oh, no, what am I supposed to do? I went to get my test.
Negative,
Absolutely.
which you have there.
Yes.
Now, Mr. Brown, that's what I'm talking about. That's a nasty that I'm talking about. So first I'm going to ask you, what made you believe that you were infected with an STD? That's not a laugh.
No, it's not a laugh. She's making it seem like it's a lot of things.
No. I'm asking you direct questions.
Yeah.
What made you think, now after you got into this discussion about money and that she was going to put on Facebook the fact that you owed her money, which is a place where you met, in a group chat?
No, I actually commented on, he said something about being 6'4", and so I was like, oh, 6'4".
I don't even know how that... After she said she was going to put on Facebook the fact that she had loaned you money and you reneged on paying her back, what made you think that you had a sexually transmitted disease is my first question. What made you think that? Had you been diagnosed, or was this just something you threw out there?
It was something I threw out there.
All right, well, that's a big problem, sir.
Well, we had conversations prior to that.
Conversation about what?
Well, it was several conversations.
I want to hear conversations about, listen, you meet someone on Facebook, you get together, you have intimate to know what kind of conversations you have about transmitting STDs to each other.
Well, I knew at that point, well, I knew before that point that she was going to get kind of cycled. And then that was...
No, look at me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Look at me. I mean, I'm trying to figure out what's going on in your mind, Mr. Brown. If what you are saying to me, sir, is that you got this money from her, it was a loan. She's owed the money. She demanded the money from you. You said, you blew her off. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll see you the next day. Whatever. I'll put it on your card. I'll put it on your card app. I can't get to the bank today. Whatever other excuse said to you, you know I'm going to put on Facebook that you're a deadbeat, that I loaned you money and you didn't pay me back. And if what you're telling me is your response to her to prevent her from putting out the breached loan agreement on Facebook, you threw out there, well, you gave me an STD. Having no basis for that statement, you didn't have an STD, you had never been diagnosed with an STD. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Is that what you did? If you just say yes, don't try to make a whole bunch of excuses and whittle your way. I want to understand something. On your best day, you're not as smart as I am on my worst.
But that's not exactly.
Start out with, were you ever diagnosed during this period with an STD?
No.
So you had no basis to believe that you had an STD?
No.
And when you told her you were going to put on Facebook the fact that she had therefore given you an STD, that was a lie.
I didn't say I was going to put it on Facebook.
What did you say?
She text messaged me with all this long threat about what she was going to do.
Do you have a threat by him that he is going to broadcast the fact?
No.
That
what ended up happening was when she threatened me with all of this, whatever she threatened me with, to put it on Facebook.
She said she was going to legitimately put on Facebook
whatever she said she was going to do. I told her, go ahead and do it. But I didn't say...
He said, I'll post it.
I'll post it myself. That's no problem. I have no problem doing it.
The very last sentence.
Yeah, I don't get embarrassed by stuff like that.
He texted me afterwards.
Well, she realized that when it wasn't going to embarrass me, that's why she didn't post it. She thought I was going to feel some kind of way or
just be quiet.
Be all hurt about it.
You may get over with girlfriends with that kind of gibberish. You don't get over it with me.
Well, she already had posted on Facebook.
Just be quiet. Also. You said to her, I didn't go to some clinic because I felt something. I see in capital specialists. Did you write that? Microscope to make sure I'm good. So I suggest you find a different doctor or use a different kit. That's you. That's you.
When you say it like that, it sounds crazy.
When you say it like that, it sounds crazy. That's what you wrote.
I mean, it's kind of like out of context a little bit.
It's not out of context. It's what you wrote to her. You said you had this disease. She went to the doctor. She had incurred medical bills, all because you were messing around with her head. And then she said, my medical test is clean. And you wrote, oh, well, yeah, I go to a specialist. I go to people who go through my body with a microscope. That's not out of context. What were your medical bills?
It was $89.
You're suing him for $1,250. The remainder is for emotional distress. You got it. He's an idiot. I would have given you more. What a fool you are. $1,250. Judgment for the plaintiff. Ms. Caston, how long were you and the defendant roommates?
Since May of 2018.
Where are you living now?
I'm currently at my boyfriend's.
What's his name?
Is Chris.
Chris what?
Chris.
Are you asking me? Is that a question? No. Where are you living now?
I'm currently at my boyfriend's.
What's his name?
Is Chris.
Chris what?
Chris.
Are you asking me? Is that a... What kind of work does he do?
He owns a tattoo shop.
On what date did you move into his apartment?
I believe it would
May
be...
1st.
No, not into his apartment. And his apartment was about 2 weeks ago. I don't know the exact date.
On what date did you move out of the apartment that you shared with the defendant?
That's what I'm saying. 2 weeks ago, I moved into my boyfriend's out of the apartment that we shared. I still currently pay rent there.
Where?
At our apartment.
Where is that? In what city?
Excuse me?
In what city?
Los Angeles.
Good. So you still live with her?
On a lease, technically, yes, but my belongings aren't in the apartment any longer.
And you said she moved
there May 1st.
Oh.
Sorry, I misunderstood.
Okay. Now, your claim is that her dog ruined your mattress. She has some ridiculous counterclaim that your dog destroyed some of her stuff. Did you both have dogs when you moved in?
Yes.
And on what date do you claim that the defendant's dog ruined your mattress?
August 19th, I would say. I had left town August 17th.
And you came back on the 19th?
On the 20th.
And you found your mattress messed?
Yes, ma'am.
Where did you sleep on the 21st?
On the couch.
And on the 22nd?
On my bed. I had rented a steam cleaner.
And on the 23rd?
Back on the couch.
On the 25th?
At my boyfriend's.
26th?
My boyfriend's.
I mean, I could go through the dates up until now, so it's really been longer than 2 weeks that you've been at your boyfriend's.
Okay.
When did you move all of your stuff out?
This was after she threw out her mattress.
When did she move all of her stuff out?
Oh, 27th, I believe.
When is the lease up?
May 1st, 2019.
Are you still living in the apartment?
Yes, I am.
You have a long time left to go on the lease.
Yes.
What are you going to do about it?
Pay the rent.
Now, what kind of dog do you have?
I have a Sheltie. I have a photo right here of him. He comes from a line of show dogs.
Just a second, he's a very nice dog.
They're really,
what kind of a dog do you have?
I have a French Bulldog.
How old?
He's 2 years old.
Does he sleep on the bed with you?
Yes.
Does he get up on the bed himself?
I usually pick him up and put him on the bed.
Does he get off the bed himself?
Yes.
When you left, and you say you left on the 17th.
Yes.
Did you leave directly from your home?
From our apartment, yes.
Where did you go?
To Joshua Tree.
And describe the mattress when you came home.
It was completely disheveled. My comforter had been moved off to the side, and it was soiled with feces.
Can I see it? And you threw it away?
I had rented a steam cleaner, and nothing was working. I drenched it in Febreze, and I went to Petco and got some kind of cleaner that's for this type of mess, but it had seeped into the mattress.
You couldn't get it out?
Exactly.
Okay. Describe the mattress when you came home.
It was completely disheveled. My comforter had been moved off to the side, and it was soiled. I went to Petco and got some kind of cleaner that's for this type of mess, but it had seeped into the mattress.
You couldn't get it out?
Exactly.
Okay. Ball's in your court.
Yes. As you can tell from the photos, that looks more of a throw-up kind of soil.
Could be.
And Pudge is known to have upset, very excited to see both Chelsea and I, and he likes to have accidents. Pepper.
I'm asking you.
Oh, yeah.
No attitude. The only attitude here is mine.
Sorry, Your Honor.
Plaintiff said that when she left on vacation, which sounds very logical, if she left from her home, and if there was a mess in her room, would not have left for a week unless she's a nut. I don't think she's a nut. So
she packed
when she came home, she immediately discussed this with you as soon as she saw you. Is that a yes or a no?
No.
Tell me when the first time you discussed this problem with the defendant was.
Confronted her.
Well, tell me what you said to her. You came home on the 20th?
Yes. I was screaming.
Was she home?
Yes. I was screaming that there was...
Mess.
A mess.
I'm not sure what it was, but a mess.
There was a mess in my bed, and my dog had not been home.
And what did she say?
And she tried to act a little surprised.
Not what she tried to act. What did she say?
She said that it wasn't her dog, and that she had seen it, but did not want to clean it up because she didn't want to take ownership of it.
How many bedrooms are there in this apartment?
2 bedroom.
Now, you're with your boyfriend, is that right?
Yes.
Are you going to remain with him?
I believe so, unless if we can...
What kind of peaceful agreement do you think you can come to?
I'm not quite sure at this moment.
Is what you're telling me going back to the apartment that you shared together has to do with her buying... Telling me going back to the apartment that you shared together has to do with her buying you a new mattress?
Yes.
And that's a $3,000 mattress.
No, don't be ridiculous. She's not going to get $3,000 for a mattress. What size bed do you have?
A California king.
It would be a documentation in front of you. You have no receipt for this mattress because it was a gift.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Now, you have a counterclaim. And your counterclaim is that her dog damaged some of your clothes. I don't care.
Your Honor, Pudge, he has this ointment.
I don't care. You moved in with dogs. I don't care. Her dog has ointment and rubs his face on your clothes. I don't care. That's what you moved in with. You have to give us $600 for a new mattress. We're done. Thank you.
Now it's case number 12 on the calendar in the matter of Clamor versus Nolan.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated and have a seat.
Ms. Clamor, the defendant is your tenant, and it's your claim he owes you for some property damage and stolen property from your home. I have a few questions. You rented a room to Mr. Nolan when?
July 1st, 2009.
And how large is your home?
83 square feet.
How many bedrooms?
2.
So you rented him one of the bedrooms?
Yes, ma'am.
Was this the first time you had a tenant?
Yes, Your Honor.
And why did you decide to rent one of the rooms?
My daughter used to occupy that bedroom, and she has been traveling because of her job. And the economy-wise, it's not ideal for me to maintain such a big house, but I want to have the spare room for her if in case she decides to come back in town. So eventually, I had to rent it out because I was having a hard time sustaining her finances and my finances as well.
Where was your daughter living?
She's traveling. She's a model, Your Honor.
Traveling?
In Asia, Your Honor. I'm sorry.
When did Mr. Nolan move in?
July 1st, 2009.
And when did this incident happen?
2010.
And between July 1st, 2009, when you rented a room to Mr. Nolan, and January 2010, where was your daughter?
In Asia.
When did she return home?
February 4, 2010.
And has she been home since February 4th, 2010?
Yes, ma'am, she was. Only for this case. I asked her to stay.
Stop.
Sorry.
Don't give me baloney. I don't like baloney.
It's not baloney.
Don't give me baloney. I don't like baloney. Because I'm 10 steps ahead of you.
Okay.
When did you tell Mr. Nolan you wanted him to vacate his room? On what date?
February 8th, after I found the damages in my apartment.
About. So you will understand why I got her number 10 ways from Sunday.
Okay.
Daughter comes home from traveling. The two of you decide to go away for a long weekend. So far, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And daughter accidentally double-bolted the house so that he couldn't get in.
Yes, Your Honor.
So he called the fire department, and they busted down the door. And she wants him to pay for the doors. And she also says that jewelry was missing when she came home, and he was the only one there. Well, that's not exactly true. He wasn't the only one there. There were a lot. Let me tell you what I think happened, Miss Claymore. Your daughter came home. You wanted Mr. Nolan out because you wanted the room back for her. And she's not here in May for this case for the doors. She's here because the modeling opportunities dried up in Asia. And you locked him out purposely because if you didn't cause him to leave, you were going to have to move to evict him, which would have taken you time. Time which you didn't have because daughter needed a place to sleep and you didn't want her to bunk in with you.
No.
That's what I think happened. You proved to me otherwise.
No.
Listen to me.
No,
how many times between July and February were you locked out of the house, Mr. Nolan?
None.
Never. How many times between July 1st, Miss Claymore, and February had he been locked out of the house by you? Never. So it's just coincidental that when you wanted the room back for your daughter, he got locked out of the house. How long had you and the daughter been living in that apartment?
2 years, Your Honor.
I want you to tell me how many times you were called that your daughter had accidentally double-bolted the lock.
Never, because she was not here.
In the 2 years you were living there with your daughter and the 6 months or 7 months that you were living with Mr. Nolan until you and your daughter went on vacation and you wanted him out of the apartment. I don't like coincidences, Miss Claymore. Do you understand?
It is not a coincidence, Your Honor.
No, it was on purpose. You did it exactly on purpose. You locked him out on purpose. What? I don't believe you.
Your Honor, the 2 years that I was living in that apartment, my daughter was not living with me the entire time. Maybe
I didn't say the entire time. I understand she wasn't living with you the entire time. You say she was traveling. And you were keeping the spare room open for her. You were keeping the spare room open for her when she came back. But then she was traveling, and she was traveling from July until she came back in February. She was traveling, not according to you, staying with you. But then she came back, and lo and behold, she's here 2 months, 2.5 months later. And she's not here 2.5 months later over a broken door.
Yes, Your Honor,
I don't.
she is.
Well, that's what you say. That's what I say is not true. That's what I don't believe. Your case is dismissed. That's all. Stop. You have a countersuit for what?
$5,000. It's $500 for prorated rent, $750 for this. Sure.
Prorated rent from?
February. I had paid rent on February 1st. I was asked to leave on February the 8th.
When did she get home?
On the 7th.
On the 7th. You get your whole month of February back. What is the rent for February?
$750.
Is that what his rent was, $750?
Yes,
Good. He gets that back. Did she return your security deposit?
No, she did not.
How much was the security deposit?
$750 as well.
Did you return a security deposit?
No, I did not.
You have to return a security deposit. That's $1,500 you owe him so far. What?
It was all punitive, Your Honor, from...
You didn't have to leave on the 8th.
No, I know that.
You could.
I know that.
You know that.
It was a very awkward situation.
Absolutely right. I absolutely agree with you. I actually agree with you to the extent of $500 because I believe she's cunning and conniving, and she knew exactly what she was doing when she locked you out. She figured, well, this is a good way to annoy him. Did our daughter stay over the night before they left on vacation?
I don't know, Your Honor. I wasn't home that evening.
Okay. So you don't know where her daughter slept?
No. I had no idea that the daughter was even there until I called the fire department and was made aware that they were on their way to Vegas.
Judgment for the defendant in the amount of $2,000 on the counterclaim, $750 for February's rents, and $500 for punitive damages. Your claim that after going on 15 years doing this job, and another couple of decades in another life doing another job. Sometimes people say to me, don't you get bored? Don't you get tired? And my usual response is, no, actually, there's something different about every case. You know, the scenario might be the same, the story might be the same, but the people are different. They come from different places, have different accents. Because I really had thought that after 30-plus years in the business, everything. That's why I'm so pleased, even at my advanced age, to see that there is always something new under the sun.
Thank you, Judge.
So I thank you, Mr. Nolan. Because of you, I'm going to work forever, because there's always that chance that something new will come again. This is what this business is about. It's actually a breach of contract case. Mr. Nolan runs a business. He gives haunted house tours. That means he gets people who are interested, I assume, in either the occult or just want a different experience that have at least the reputation of being occupied by people who lived a long time ago.
Indeed.
So far, am I correct, Mr. Nolan?
Absolutely, Your Honor.
Your contract with the defendant who managed a boarding house, big old Victorian house. The two of you met someplace, I don't know where you met, and he discussed the fact with you that he thought that there were spooky things going on in the house. You said, great. Can I make your house part of our ghost tour? And you executed a contract, which is part of your effort.
Thank you.
And it is your claim that Mr. Thompson violated the terms and conditions of that contract, changed his mind about allowing your group to use his house as one of the sites of the ghost tours, and you suffered financial damage.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Thompson says that you actually breached the contract by not doing what you were supposed to do.
That's correct, Your Honor.
So he doesn't want to be involved with your group anymore. How long have you had this business, Mr. Nolan?
We've operated haunted San Diego tours for 5 years, Your Honor.
And how many houses do you have on the tour?
5 currently.
How many houses did you have on the tour?
That would be 6.
You signed up Mr. Thompson on August 18th, 2009.
That's right.
I would like to see your literature from July of 2009.
Okay. There's 2 brochures here. One is an actual rack card. The other is a brochure. There's a little bit of a difference between the two. There's a before and after. Before Mr. Thompson's house was added, and after.
That's what I'd like to see.
That's not true, Your Honor.
Shh. You talk about a quaint Victorian getaway?
Yes, ma'am. When people to places that we visit, well, of course, adding Mr. Thompson to the tour, people are expecting to see that house on the tour. That's not what our contract states.
Mr. Thompson, I'm a good reader. What you're talking about is a quaint B&B with a sinister secret.
Exactly.
Or a quaint Victorian getaway.
Yes, ma'am.
Where in your literature does it say the Frederick H.C. Fernald Victorian Guest House?
Nowhere.
But that's what you promise in your contract.
The agreement with Mr. Thompson.
No.
Yes,
I'm reading
indeed,
the contract.
Yes. In the contract, it says Victorian Getaway Guest House. Indeed.
No. It says Fernald Victorian Guest House.
That's correct.
Now, well, contract has to have consideration on both sides. You know what consideration is?
Yes, ma'am.
You know what consideration is, sir? It means that each of you have to get a benefit from a valid contract. Sometimes it's money, sometimes it's goods and services, but that's what creates a valid contract. So I know what you get.
Yes, ma'am.
But what the defendant was looking for was, because he didn't get anything, you didn't pay him.
That's correct.
So in exchange for entry into the house, to advertise and promote interests in the Frederick H.C. Fernald Victorian Guest House on websites, including affiliates, ticket seller websites, and to all tour guests of 8, that's the haunted house, that's you. This doesn't mention his name.
It certainly doesn't. An agreement that Mr. Thompson and I had a statement from Mr. Thompson.
You can't have a statement, sir.
Okay.
I'm going to explain another part of contract law to you. When you have an oral agreement, an oral contract, you can introduce what we call oral evidence about what that contract was. When you have a printed contract, a writing, signed by both parties on the 4 corners of this agreement to modify it or change it. Do you understand?
Yes.
So if what you're about to tell me was Mr. Thompson did not want the name mentioned, you can't tell me that.
Okay.
Because it's not in here. If he said under no circumstances is the name of my Victorian guest house to be mentioned here, then it's part of the contract.
Yes, ma'am.
If it's not in here, it's not part of the contract.
Verbal agreements after the fact are not going to play in. Okay.
You can't. I'm telling you, I've just given you a free course in contract law, which was one of the few.
Thank you.
Because you know how long it was when I went to law school? Moses was going up the mountain. But you could say, no, that's ridiculous. It wouldn't hurt you. If you have a written agreement, you cannot introduce what they call parole evidence, which is oral evidence of a modification of that agreement, because this is what you're suing on. You're bound by the terms of it because this is what you're suing on. Do you understand?
Disappointed, but understand, yes.
Okay. So what you actually want from him is the cost of your brochures, because otherwise...
Take it off the brochures so that people see the places that we visit.
Other than that, you really didn't have any major damage. You went to some expense. Just for my own curiosity, Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
You understand that you're going to win.
Yes.
Are you happy now?
Yes, very happy.
I want you to look happy.
I'm happy. I'm excited.
Good. Look happy. But I want you to tell me why you chose not to follow through with this.
Well, can I show you pictures of my Victorian before we entered the contract? Okay. Well, basically...
Was it changed because of something Mr. Nolan did?
No, I just want to show you how beautiful it was.
I'm sure it's beautiful.
But basically, because he fit Mr. Fernard's name on it, it's about history with me. And he changed a lot when he would come in the house, when he wouldn't, and it was a lot of work for me. And I wasn't earning anything. I got no press that I was promised. I got no referrals from guests staying from there. They were all too creeped out to stay after Mr. Nolan was done his tour. There was blood stains were in the ceiling dripping down. A man would hang himself. Then I would pass out my own brochure that I had to print with my name on it. Then I would say, would you like to stay here? Oh, no, you stay here. I'm too creeped out. This isn't, I didn't want it to be a creep show. This is a beautiful Victorian house.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
I would have been able to guess that during a ghost tour would not have chosen to spend the night. Do you know what I mean?
Right, I understand.
You didn't get what you bargained for.
That's correct.
Therefore, you chose to terminate the contract.
That's correct.
And I believe you had a right to do that because the information contained in these brochures did not advertise your property. Rather than a particular house, it was a generic Victorian getaway.
Exactly.
Got it?
Yes.
I've had a wonderful time with you, Mr. Nolan.
May I say just one more thing, just to give a little insight for you so you know some more?
I don't need to know.
I agreed to give Mr. Thompson some money.
I don't need to know anymore your business.
Indeed.
I'm sure you have a lovely business, and I've heard an interesting case that could be decided on a simple contract basis.
Contract basis. So when
It's case number 482 on the calendar, the matter Mosby versus Landris.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Mr. Mosby, how many cars do you have in your fleet?
14.
How long have you been in business?
42 years.
How many full-time drivers do you have?
None.
So you don't pay any benefits to anybody? You have people who work for you?
Oh, no, they're on the payroll. I pay labor and industries and employment security on each one.
I'm talking about benefits. You don't?
No.
Would you pay them by check and you just take out their Social Security, their federal
Correct.
withholding, their state withholding? And how many hours a week did you work for the plaintiff?
It was part-time. It varied week by week. Some weeks, none. Other weeks, it could be up to 15.
Now, these people who work for you as drivers, do they sign an employment contract?
Yes. And
I'd like to see a copy of an employment contract. Mr. Mosby, it is your claim that the defendants, and they're a married couple, while working separate limousines.
Correct.
She damaged one, and he damaged two?
No. She damaged all three.
She damaged all three. Now, I'm looking at this at-fault accident form that you had her sign, which she signed on March the 10th, 2016, which says, I understand that if I am in an at-fault accident in a company limousine, that I'll be obligated to pay the insurance deductible out of my own pocket. And if you've been in business for 42 years, you know what the insurance deductible is, correct?
Correct.
Why isn't that stated in here?
Well, we do cover it in our staff meetings.
Why isn't it in the contract?
Well, because it could change, maintain one amount.
This, to me, is an unfair document because it allows you, if you wish, to increase the deductible to $1,000, $1,500, $2,500 deductible without notice here. So that anyone who signs this document and says, well, insurance deductible, if they're not smart enough to ask you what the deductible is, For instance, I wouldn't take a job knowing that if I were in an accident, you have a $2,500 deductible, and I would be responsible for that out of my pocket. Might I take one when you had a $500 deductible? Perhaps. So I'm going to you, sir, that you have a minimum and a maximum insurance deductible, which at most will be, and put a figure. What is the deductible that you've chosen on your limousines?
$1,000, Your Honor.
Now, you could have chosen $500. Did you ever have $500 deductibles?
No.
Did you ever have any more than $1,000 deductibles?
No.
Well, you said it changed years ago. When did it change?
Well, I was referring to the premiums change.
I'm talking about the deductible.
Okay. No, the deductible has always been $1,000.
Okay. Now, let us say that Mrs. Landris, let us say she damaged 3 of your cars. When was the first that damage?
That was July 25th, 2016, and that amount was $3,191.
Okay, so that would mean she owed $1,000.
Correct.
When was the next one?
October 15th, 2016.
And what was that amount?
Well, there was 2 vehicles both on the same day. So one of them was $1,071.
So she doesn't owe you anything for that?
Well, yes, $1,000 deductible.
No.
Well, the bill was over $1,000, so I didn't turn it on insurance. So she owes the first $1,000.
Deductible.
Your Honor.
What?
He claimed to us that he never turned any of the accidents into his insurance. That's my choice.
When, maybe. When was the next accident?
The same day, October 15th, 2016.
And how much was that?
That was $3,350.
So on that one, she owes you $1,000. And you paid out of your own pocket.
The difference.
Therefore, nothing. Because you turn it into your insurance. She pays the $1,000. Your insurance covers the rest, right?
But the premiums go up.
That's what you have insurance for, sir.
But it still would be my choice.
That's what you have insurance for. How much money did you take out of Mrs. Landris's pay?
$388.
That's incorrect.
I have the check stubs.
We do.
I'd like to see what you took out.
Their accounting wasn't the greatest. Even the amounts that they had listed on the sheet that was paid.
May I just see, please? What do you have? What is this from?
That shows the balance of what's left on the first vehicle.
I want to know how much you took out altogether, sir.
$388.
And that's in total from her pay?
Correct.
And then you fired her?
No.
Well,
yes.
I mean, after the third. Yes.
Although I didn't know.
Shh. Listen, stay out of big cars. Are they big limousines? Are they big limousines?
Yes, they are.
Then stay out of big limousines. It's evidently not your thing.
But I only damaged 1 car and not 3.
Okay. Now, after you fired her, I want you to tell me the conversation you had with her husband.
Well, I went up to and met with Lynn and...
Just him?
Yes.
You fired her?
Yeah.
Because according to you had enough somebody scratching up your cars. I see what you're doing is you're not claiming them on insurance. You would rather pay the out-of-pocket. Who does your mechanics work for you?
We have an in-house guy.
Go like this, you scratch.
But they're paid legally.
After you fired her, and you didn't turn these cases into insurance, and in case anybody didn't hear that, you don't send the cars out to be fixed. You have someone who works for you.
Oh, no, that was, you said mechanical. But body
in-house.
Shop-wise, I send them all out. I don't do that.
Well, then I'd like to see the bills for the 3 cars that you're talking about.
That's 1, that's 2. Okay. The first one is the first vehicle on July 25th.
What was the first?
That's 2016.
Tell me.
So it was a longer job. It was a few more hours than most of them are. It happened late in the day, so it was around 11 o'clock when I got done with the run and had dropped the people off and was taking the car back to the warehouse. I was tired. John does not... Okay, so I got to the warehouse and I went to back the car into the warehouse. There were 3 rows of cars inside.
So you backed it in, you hit something?
No, I backed it in because I thought that there was room inside and there wasn't. As I was pulling the car out to park it behind the warehouse, I thought I had given myself enough room to clear the garage door and I didn't, and I scratched in it.
Okay, so you hit something.
I did.
And it was your fault?
It was.
Fine. How long had you been working for him?
Since March 10th of 2016 at that point, so for 4 months.
And this was the first accident that you've had?
Yes.
So you know you owe him $1,000 for that?
Well, my understanding was that the deductible was $500. The $1,000 came out not until he was telling me that I owed him that money.
What made you think it was a $500 deductible?
Because when I was hired on and had gone into his original business, Mr. Tux, to sign the paperwork, he was talking about the deductible being $500. And I said, oh, well, really? Because most commercial businesses, their deductible, he's like, no, it's $500.
You should have had him put it in.
You're right. I should have put it in writing.
Put it in writing. So that you owe him. Now, when do you claim the second accident was, sir?
October 15th, 2016.
And tell me about that.
Well, prior to that, she had been driving all summer, and she had 2 runs that day. A Navigator, which is not a limo. That's vehicle number 3. The large Escalade, which is a 14-passenger vehicle, was the second vehicle. She was having frustrations that day because she had lost...
Don't tell me what you've lost. Just tell me about the accident. Tell me about the damage.
Okay, so each driver, as we've done that for years, and that'll be vehicles before they go out, or they're responsible for any damage.
That's not correct.
Oh, that would be smart. It would be smart if you looked at it. Go ahead.
That's right. And so the next run on the Escalade was Brad here, and he was doing his inspection, and that's when he found the side scrapes on the Escalade.
Okay, and did he report that before his run?
Oh, yes.
To whom?
Me.
When was that run?
Shh.
The 18th.
3 days later.
But the vehicle didn't go out. Yeah.
Oh.
How do we know?
That's all right. That's okay. So it wasn't the same day. It was 3 days later.
Correct.
Just a second. And 3 days later, your cars are stored in your garage?
Correct.
How many cars are stored in? How many of the other cars went in and out in that 3-day interval?
None. I have a run sheet to show that there was no
So there was no business conducted whatsoever between the time she brought the car back. Nobody was in that unit. I'd like to see that. Business was that bad, I might close up. No business conducted whatsoever between the time she brought the car back. Nobody was in that unit. I'd like to see that. Business was that bad, I might close up my shop.
Your Honor, car cleaners go in and out of the shop. There's half a dozen people that have keys to get in there. If he's going to have them clean it, and there's the car that in the back, you have to pull 2 or 3 cars out.
Good. I'm glad you brought it out. I will ask him that question.
Thank you.
As soon as he finds
I think you already have it, ma'am.
The defendant tells me that those cars are routinely cleaned, who have access to that garage for the purposes of cleaning the cars inside and out. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Now I'm going to come back to you. On the day that the first accident, when you hit the side of the garage door, that was late at night. I assume Mr. Mosby was not working.
He was not working at that point.
Just a second. Was anybody else working?
No, I was the only one at the warehouse.
When, if ever, did you report what had happened to Mr. Mosby?
I reported it the next morning because it was late that night and he does not like us to... Okay.
You reported it the next morning?
I did.
In what method did you use to report it?
Answer. So I sent him a text.
And you said to him, I had an accident with the car.
I said, I had an incident with the car. Please call me.
And you told him what happened?
What he said to me when he called me was, yes, I know my grandson has already taken it to the body shop.
That's not true.
That's what you told me.
Doesn't matter. She self-reported because she was responsible, right? Did she call and self-report with regard to either of the other 2 incidents where there were scrapes on the car?
No.
So one car was driven 3 days later and was in a warehouse during those 3 days where other people had access to the cars and had access to the warehouse. They're inside or outside of the cars. Now let's get to the third incident.
Okay, that was the little Navigator, which was the first run of that day. And another driver that the 2 of them together with Brad had discovered.
So you can't tell me whether another driver discovered, sir. That's hearsay.
Well, and then they reported it to me.
That's still here. Can tell me on what date and tell me what you saw.
On the 18th, I saw the damaged bumper and fender.
And when had that car been driven?
On October 15th.
So, again, there was a 3-day hiatus between the time that the defendant drove the car and someone else showed you, and then you saw for yourself. Whatever it was 3 days later. Check the cars immediately, sir, and not wait 3 days. And I assume that this third car was in the same warehouse situation where other people had access to it.
No, it's outside.
So that car is outside?
Under a garage.
With how many other cars?
None.
So it sits all by itself?
Yes.
Is that correct?
The last time I saw it, it was in the warehouse, so...
When you brought it back on the 15th...
I parked it in the warehouse.
No.
I did. I parked it in the warehouse.
Well, you don't know that. That's what she's saying.
I was there. On the Saturday she drove, I got there. I was there.
You were not. You were driving back from California.
That's right, but I got there later in the day. It was in back.
$672. And that's for the first accident that she has, that she acknowledged she had, that she notified you had. Now, I would like to know why you thought that it was appropriate to dock his pay for her accident.
No, my agreement was, as I walked away, is if you want to pay off Kaylin's balance, which was $600 and some at that point, then you can continue to drive. So I left. Then he started taking runs. He kept driving. So that was our agreement.
How much did you withhold from his pay?
Nothing. He's been paid in full.
Okay.
He did. I mean, I was taking 50%, but it's illegal.
It is.
Well, and that's why I paid him in full.
Did he pay you?
After he terminated me for telling him what he was doing was illegal, yes.
Not true, Your Honor.
Well,
he called and threatened me.
Just a second. Okay. He threatened you to report you for doing something that was illegal. He threatened to report you unless you gave him his money because you were doing something that was illegal.
He changed he changed the agreement that we had.
You're slippery, Mr.
No,
Mosby.
I'm not.
Yeah,
I've been in business
slippery.
42 years.
600, what?
612.
Oh, 388.
From 1,000?
Yes.
612.
612.
You?
Bird, I'm so glad you. Okay, let's talk about your countersuit for wrongful termination.
Yes.
Because your countersuit for wrongful termination.
Yes.
Because that's your counterclaim. You wouldn't want to work for him anyway. However, you don't have a written contract with him for a certain period of time. You're an ad hoc worker. Either he can keep you or fire you.
True, but...
That's true. That's true. In My America, unless you have, and he's not based upon your race, your religion, your sexual preference, he says, I don't like you anymore. In America, you could do that. In America, not necessarily in some of these companies that are here, you know, here they say, well, have to get you an appropriate chair, or we only need gluten-free snacks, or whatever, and we're going to sue you. But in My America, even though it may seem what he did was unfair, coming to you and saying, you've got to pay off her debt and you can continue to drive for me, it's slippery and ridiculous.
He was intimidating me.
It's slippery and ridiculous, but you don't want to work for him anyway.
Well, it's probably true. You know,
right.
I needed the money.
And you owe him $612. That's it. We're done.
So that's not
Your Honor, what about the
that's not wrongful
counterclaim?
termination?
Just a second. I just dealt with it. You just heard it.
Yeah,
you just heard it.
He threatens to fire me because I won't pay her money?
Just a second. I just gave you a whole speech. Weren't you listening? God gave you one mouth and 2 ears for a reason. I said, in America, you do not have a contract with him. He can fire you if he wants to. He can't fire you based on
I notified
your
him
race,
he was doing something
your religion.
illegal.
Did he pay you your money?
He did, but he
We're
fired me.
done.
So what about my future earnings that I could have had with him?
Oh, my God.
This is case number 181 on the calendar in the matter of Kip versus Greg.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Judge parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat, please.
Miss Kip, the defendant is your daughter, and it is your claim that you made a loan to her for an attorney.
Yes, ma'am.
Your daughter says not only was it a loan, it was a gift, and it was actually only a partial gift. You actually promised her more money, so she's got a counterclaim for the rest of the gift. Now, you needed a lawyer for what, Miss Gregg?
I'm dealing with the custody.
Your child?
She's 3.
Who does she live with now?
The father.
How long has she lived with her father?
For 8 months.
Prior to living with her father for the last 8 months, with whom did she reside?
Me.
And when custody was changed to her father, was that after a hearing?
A hearing and trial.
So it was a full trial?
Yes.
And the trial was concluded and the court ordered the child custody transferred to the father?
Yes.
Well, then you're not in the middle of a child custody case anymore. The case is over.
I appealed, so it's still ongoing. I'm also in court. I have another trial coming in September for modification of custody in violation of the court order.
When was the trial?
The full trial was in June.
June of last year?
Yes.
That's when what you needed the money for from your mother?
Yes. When I spoke to my mom, I let her know that I was losing custody. I called my mom to let her know what was happening. And that's when she told me, don't get a court-appointed lawyer. I should get a private lawyer. I told her that's going to cost money.
Does that conversation sound familiar?
It sounds similar, but not to the full extent. No.
Well, it sounds to me as if something she would say to you.
Yes.
It looks to me as if I might lose custody. I have court-appointed lawyer. She called you.
She actually called me crying and telling me that the court-appointed lawyer wasn't representing her properly, that she needed to get a lawyer, but she didn't have any money.
Okay. And is that what she told you?
No. I didn't even ask her for money.
Just a second. Do you work?
Yes.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a lead teacher at a daycare.
And how much money do you earn?
I make around $1,400 a month.
And you were aware of that's the kind of work she does, is that right?
Yes, ma'am. And I do not work.
That's not my fault. But she works and she makes $1,400 a month. And up until June of last year, she, I assume, was responsible for both her support and your granddaughters.
Yes.
Right. So you knew she didn't have money to retain a lawyer.
Correct.
Now, you had gotten, according to you, a large settlement.
Yes.
From disability. They had denied you disability for a period of time?
Yes.
And the appeal took a little time?
Yes.
And afterwards it went to the appellate level and they said, fine, you should get disability. We're going to give you disability and we're going to give you all your back disability.
Correct.
And how much did you get for your back disability?
$29,619.
How old are you?
53.
When was the last time you worked?
2006.
Who's been supporting you since 2006?
I've been living with my son. He's been paying all the bills, and I had to pay him back after I got my money.
Just a second. You've been living with your son. Does your son live alone?
Yes.
Live in a house or an apartment?
We had an apartment.
The two of you?
The two of us and for my grandchildren.
Who's the mother of those children?
Candace.
That's you?
Yes.
Where do you live?
New York City.
And where does your mother live?
Florida.
Were you watching the children pursuant to a custody order?
No, it was voluntary.
Who was supporting the children?
Department of Children and Family Services.
So you were receiving money for the 4 children from the Department of Social Services in Florida?
Food stamps.
So I'm asking you who was supporting the children. You want to get up and tell me who was supporting the children? I worked in family court for
my son
30 years.
Myself and my brother were supporting the children. I was sending my mother money every 2 weeks.
How much money were you sending your mother?
Like $400 every 2 weeks.
From what money?
Well, I'm currently in school to get my salon. So the money that I make, I will send half to my mother.
Children back with you now?
Yes.
When did they come back with you?
June of 2014.
So they've been back with you for a year?
Yes. They were only with my mother for a year. They were
for
only
1 year?
They went to stay with my mom for the summer vacation. And school in Florida starts in August, and in New York it starts in September. She decided to put them in school because they were with her for the month of August. And I said, well, since they already started school, let them stay for the school year. That's why they came back to me the following year in June.
Oh, my God. And you had an arrangement with your mother to send her money every week?
No, I just sent her money.
And she's receiving just food stamps for them?
Yes.
Or any other cash assistance?
No, I don't believe she was receiving cash assistance.
What kind of work does your brother do in Florida?
My brother, I'm not really sure.
What kind of work does your son do?
My son was working for a lawn care service, and that's how he was paying our bills. And my daughter never sent me a dime. My son actually gave me money to send to her. And if I knew I had to prove that, I would have bought the Western Union slips. This case.
So it sounds to me as if your son, without anybody's assistance, doing his lawn care, is taking care of, according to you, 4 children, you, himself, and sending money to his sister.
Yes.
That must be a very big...
He had to pay $600 a month rent. And the company he worked for had a large contract. It was called Florida Property Management Lawn Service.
Where are you living now?
I live in Florida with my next to the oldest son.
Why did you move out of son's house where you were living?
He and his girlfriend, and he has a 6-month-old child, they moved to get an apartment by themselves. And when I had got my settlement, my son that I live with now, we were supposed to get a house together, but that didn't work out because nobody gave me back my money. So he just bought a house, and he said because I let them live with me when I was working, he said he's going to take care of me. And I also have my 8-year-old granddaughter with me, Candace's child.
That child stayed with your mother?
Well, December.
Okay, I'm getting the gist of what's going on. Now you can sit. So now your daughter calls you crying she's going to lose custody of her child, and you've just received $29,000 that you've been able to live without since 2006 when you stopped working 9 years ago. And you said to her, I can loan you money. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. And she said to you what?
That she would pay me back as soon as she received her income tax return.
So you were expecting a refund?
Yes.
How much of a refund were you expecting?
Well,
how much of a refund were you expecting?
$6,000, and that's what the 2 checks combined.
Okay, now you filed your income tax this year already? Have you received your refund?
I received the first check, not the second one.
How much did you receive?
42, maybe.
What did you do with the money?
I recently moved from one apartment into a house. Me and my partner has taken over the family business, and we had to reconstruct the daycare.
And what about your mother?
My mother didn't loan me any money. She only expected
Well, let me ask you this question.
Yes.
How dare you take money as a gift from somebody who you know doesn't work and go and buy a house?
I didn't buy the house. I moved into the house. The house is already there with the business already constructed.
So then what did you do with the $4,300? You moved into a house.
Yes, the house was already there. We just moved into it.
So what did you do with the $4,300?
I reconstructed the daycare. I reconstructed the backyard. I bought an entire playground. I had to redo the mulch for the playground, and I had to buy things for the daycare.
Can I see a copy of the check you sent to your daughter?
The bank couldn't find it. They could not locate the cashier's check.
Let me see where it came out of the bank. I want to see the date that you paid the lawyer.
Yes, I have that here.
Doesn't say here at all that you paid $5,000. Doesn't say that you withdrew $5,000 to give her.
I withdrew. It was in two payments.
I'm sorry, she never gave me $5,000.
No way.
My mother gave me $3,000.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. That's a lot of baloney.
I made two deposits. I made two withdrawals.
Then, you want to know something? I'm going to send you back to Florida and wait until they get you the money order so that you can show me, because I don't see it here. You make big withdrawals from this account, $2,000, $3,000. Retainer agreement is not for $5,000, which is what you're suing for. The retainer agreement is for $4,000, and they were asking for only $3,000 at the signing of the agreement, and you have no proof of anything else. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
I'm glad you understand it.
I do have a witness.
I'm not interested in your witness. I'm interested when we deal with money. This retainer agreement clearly doesn't say $5,000. It says retain you for a flat fee of $4,000, $3,000 to be payable now. And you do have a withdrawal for $3,000, and that's on October 6th.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that what your mother sent you?
Yes, she sent me the $3,000.
Where did she come up with the other $1,000 that you were supposed to pay the lawyer?
Me and my partner together. My mother did get the settlement. She was excited to send that. She said God gave her this money because he must have known that I was going to need it. She never been able to help me before.
Just a second. How much money do you claim you gave your daughter?
I gave her a total of $5,900. Her partner sent me a check for $300, which I cashed. I had $600 on me. I got a cashier check the first time for $3,000 directly deposited into her TD bank account. Then she called me back and said that her lawyer needed more money. I went back to the bank. I took out $2,000. I had $600 already on me. I gave them the $2,610. I directly deposited into her TD bank account.
Okay.
She did send me another $600.
Just a second. You know what? I think that because I'm reading the complaint, and your complaint says that she promised to pay me back with her income tax returns in 2015. At the very least, she would make payments. I went to the bank and got a cashier's check for $3,000, which I deposited into her account, and another $26 later that week because it was more than she thought it was. You say in your answer, I obtained a lawyer with the $6,000 she sent me.
I obtained a lawyer with the money that she sent me. She said she sent $6,000, so $6,000 was the number that was being floated around.
No, not floated. What kind of floated? This isn't a floated. This is an answer. The answer says $1 she sent me. So my question is, what'd you do with the rest of the money?
My mother sent me the $3,000 to retain my lawyer. She then again sent me another $1,500. She told me to take my daughter shopping. She told me to make sure I do everything that I can when my daughter is on weekend visits so I can take those receipts to the courts to prove that I'm taking care of my child.
What do you mean take your daughter shopping? Your daughter's 3 years old, and she was living with her father. What kind of taking her shopping?
I didn't spend the entire $1,500 on that.
Well, what'd you spend the money on?
I spent the money on my child.
Doing what?
Taking her out. I don't see what the joke is.
I see what the joke is.
I really don't.
Well, I actually do.
When you live in New York, it's different.
Do you think I grew up?
I know exactly where you grew up, so then you should understand.
So you can't, listen, when you don't have a child in your custody, then
I don't understand. Why do if I spent the money on whatever I spent it on, what is the problem if she gave it to me?
Where did you get the $3,000 for the retainer?
From my mother.
And then you needed another $1,000.
Which was paid to her, to my lawyer.
By whom?
By me.
Great. The retainer agreement provides for $3,000. If your daughter scammed you out of $2,000, that's your problem. That's all that you can marginally prove because that's what she agrees that you sent to her. I don't know how much you sent to her, actually, and I don't know what it was for, but I know one thing, that $3,000 at some point during the month of October was taken out of your account. It doesn't say where it went, doesn't say it was direct deposited someplace else. But she acknowledges that you sent her $3,000 for the lawyer. So that's what I'm going. Ridiculous. Get a job. Counterclaim is for the rest of the loan that you were supposed to give you. Goodbye. Owes you because you were supposed to pay a performance fee.
Correct.
How much was he supposed to pay?
He was supposed to pay me $500 in ticket sales.
And on what date was this supposed concert to take place?
December 6, 2014.
Is it the first time that the defendant has performed in one of your venues? When was the first time?
Back on October 17, 2014.
And at that time, how much did he pay you?
He gave me $400.
When did he give you the $400?
The night of the show.
And the $400 was from ticket sales?
Yep.
Okay, so you decided to do the gig again?
Yes.
Tickets, is that right?
Yes, ma'am. I was supposed to sell so many tickets, and I'd be able to perform.
Okay. How do you get paid?
By the ticket sales. You sell a certain amount of tickets, and with the extra tickets, you would get a profit. It was a total of 30 tickets. There were 25 tickets that we sold. With the extra 5 tickets, we would get the extra 5 tickets if we sold we
so
would
you
get
would
in
get
profit.
$100.
Yes, roughly.
And this gig on December 6th, was that the same arrangement?
It was supposed to be the same arrangement.
Okay. Well, when you first decided to do it, it was supposed to be the same
Yes, ma'am.
arrangement. You were going to sell tickets. How many were you supposed to sell?
25.
And how many did you get to keep for yourself?
None.
I mean,
it wasn't two, because for that show, I was promised that there were going to be over 200 people there.
So just a minute. So you had no agreement as far as fee for that show. Is that right?
Yes.
The only thing was you were supposed to sell 25 tickets and give the money, which was $500.
Yes, ma'am.
To the plaintiff. Okay. And the expectation was that there would be as many people there as there were in October.
Yes.
How many people were there in October?
In October, there was anywhere from 200 to 300 people.
How many performing acts were there?
10 to 12.
Okay. Now, I assume since we have our monitor here, someone is prepared to show me how many people showed up for the event.
I am. I have a DVD
How
right
many
here.
people?
200.
You have proof of that?
There is proof, yes.
What is the proof?
The video that I
That he's
have
going to
here.
show me?
Yep.
That there were 200 people there?
Yep.
Okay. He says there were 20 or 30 people there.
There was no more.
That there were 20 or 30 people there, that he shouldn't owe you anything, right?
Yeah. Yes, Your Honor.
Perfect. Good. So this is going to be easy.
As you can see right there, Your Honor, there's anywhere from, like I'm saying, 20 to 30 people sitting right there in the front right there. It looks like
Oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah. I don't know if it's the 200 that...
200, but it's certainly more than 20.
And this video was also videotaped throughout the night.
Just a second. Well, there were certainly more than 20 or 30. Why didn't you sell any tickets?
I sold my tickets.
Just a second. So you sold your 25 tickets. When you sell, somebody gives you money.
Yes.
How much money did you get?
Out of those 25 tickets, I made 400.
Well, how much was each ticket?
Each ticket was $20.
Well, that's $500.
And it was 500. I sold 25 tickets, and whatever the profit from the total from
What
that
kind
is
of
what I
profit?
got. There was no profit. I'm saying that's what I got. Was that?
Just a second. So you sold 25 tickets.
I sold 25 tickets.
And
yes.
that's what he's suing for, the $500.
It's case number 174 on the calendar in the matter of Grollo versus Joyner.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Mr. Joyner, you're a contractor?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have your own company or do you work for someone else?
I have my own business.
How long have you been in the business?
Since 2010.
How many employees do you have?
Depending on the job site, between 2 and 5.
Are these full-time employees or people that sit up? Are these full-time employees or people that you pick up?
2 of them were full-time. The other guys would be as needed.
To refurbish your house?
Through my witness, Anthony Perkins.
You mean he came recommended to you through this witness?
Yes, ma'am.
You had purchased a house?
I was given a house, so.
By whom?
A friend of mine. It was a handyman special. It needed some work done, windows.
I understand that. What do you mean you were given the house? What does that mean?
She no longer needed the house, so she gave it to me as like a gift. I don't know. I didn't pay for it.
What's the person's name who gave you this house?
Her name is Megan. I can't pronounce her last name.
I know for that. She told me she paid $5,000 for a trailer. It's not even a house.
Is that what it is? Is it a trailer?
Yes, ma'am, it's a trailer.
Rent on the lot?
Yes.
But the trailer needed a lot of work.
Yes.
On what date did you hire the defendant?
Approximately June 30th.
How much money did you give him?
We had an original contract. I had given him $2,000.
Did you have a contract in writing?
Yes, we did.
I'd like to take a look at it.
That one I do not have. We voided that contract and got another contract.
I'd like to see that. So on July 3rd, she paid you $6,000.
$1,500 and an $800 Home Depot card.
Let's go slowly. $1,500.
And an $800 Home Depot gift card.
And the job was to be completed in 2 weeks.
Approximately.
The job was to be completed in 2 weeks. That's what it says. And that's all the money she gave you.
No, she gave me other Home Depot cards.
How many?
I don't even remember. I think it totaled out to $5,800 total.
So she paid you $5,800.
Between the $2,000 that she put down at first for the interior of the house.
Oh, no, just a second. Mr. Joyner, you say she gave you $1,500 and an $800 Home Depot card. Now you say she gave you $2,000.
There was two contracts. She had 700 square feet of laminate to be put in at $2 a foot. That comes out to $1,400. The contract was for $38 total. She gave me $2,000 down. I was going to paint the interior of her house, redo her backsplash.
No, I have the only written contract
I have. That contract got voided because there was 2 walls that needed repaired. She had a lot of water damage coming into her home.
Listen to me carefully. All I'm asking you is, how much money did she give you pursuant to this second contract, which required she pay you $6,000.
That was the beginning of the contract. That was an open end.
No.
It's circled. It says open end.
Listen to me, Mr. Joyner. How much money did she, second contract, which is the only one I have?
$3,800 total.
And for the $6,000, you were to do 12 square look of vinyl siding installed, remove old siding, and replace all damaged wood, all materials supplied by contractor.
Correct.
Did you do all of that? Remove and replace any up to all windows supplied by customers. Any, what is that word, Bird? Remove and replace.
I'd be guessing, Judge. I don't know what that is.
Number 2, remove and replace something up to all windows supplied by customers. What word? Who wrote this?
I did. Remove and replace any up to all windows supplied by customer.
Place any up to all windows, but the windows were to be supplied by the customer.
Correct.
Did you remove and replace any windows?
Yes.
How many?
2.
And were they supplied by the customer?
No, I actually, yes. Well, she paid me to get
for
them
it. Okay,
yes.
So that was accomplished.
Yes.
Repair back bedroom wall and small bedroom wall and ceiling. Did you do that?
Yes.
Did he do that?
He did put 2 windows in, but I gave him $400 to go buy brand new windows from someone.
No, he says.
Yes, but he put broke windows in, not the windows.
Don't speak to her. Don't speak to her.
I apologize.
I had purchased some windows from someone on Facebook. They had brand new windows. They had enough to do my trailer.
Okay, let's move on.
I gave him $400.
Repair back bedroom wall and small bedroom wall and ceiling. You say you did that.
The first bedroom wall, yes. The second
so the
bedroom
answer
wall,
the answer is no. You did not complete that.
That is where the stipulations came in. She had 1/4-inch paneling on the wall. I pulled the paneling down. I pulled the insulation out, and I was looking at siding. There's no walls, and everything is rotted. There's termites infested this entire
Mr.
trailer,
Joyner,
which is when we began the new contract.
You have another written contract?
No. The $1,000 was get deposited. I wrote this on the 3rd. She wanted me to do the interior of the house. I said, there's no possible way I can do the interior, put your flooring in with all of the water damage coming in. It will ruin everything you have.
Mr. Joyner.
When I opened up the wall...
Mr. Joyner, you're the contractor. Before you accept a job, pay attention. You don't have your listening ears on, sir. Listening ears. Before you accept a job and take anybody's money for anything, you're the expert. You're supposed to figure out by looking, drilling a hole, seeing what's behind it. You're supposed to figure out, purchaser, a reasonable estimate of what it's going to cost. That's your job as the expert. Don't tell me when you went to take a wall down, you found that there was nothing behind it, so you had to add on to this bill, and you're covered under this bill because of this circled item subject to additions. Because that leaves the purchaser in a very bad place. You understand that? That leaves the purchaser in the place, well, bring your car in, you need a new light bulb. Well, then you get a call an hour later and you say, you know what? You don't need a new bulb in your front headlight. The whole gazebo is rotted away. So if you want your car back, you have to pay me not $25 to put in a new light bulb, you got to pay me $2,500 to put in a new gazebo. So far, you've got thousands of dollars of her money, and she can't move into her house. And you say you're covered because there was even more damage to the house, and that's covered by your contract with your circle subject to additions. She didn't add anything. You were supposed to fix the house so that she could live in it, and you didn't do that. $2,000 paid on June 30th, $2,000. $4,000 due for the next phase to begin. Spray for insect paid $1,500 cash and an $800 Home Depot card. Well, I thought that was the initial thing for the floor.
No, the $2,000 was her initial down payment for flooring and paint. When I took the wall down, there's no walls there. There's no way for me to tell you how much damage you have on your house until we tear all your siding off. I have no idea. It's 60 foot long on each side. How do I know what part of this 60 foot is damaged and what's not until I look at every piece of it?
I would like you to show me
idea
pictures of the way the
torn
house currently looks now. So far, how much in total have you paid him?
I did give him $400 for the windows. He broke once. He did give me the $400 back.
He gave it back to you?
The $400 for the windows, he did return that. But that's not included in the $5,800. Worker, which is his stepson, $400.
Okay. I'd like to see what the house looks like now.
My pictures got damaged, but I have them all on my phone. Give her this. Okay, what it looks like. These are all the pictures starting here for what it looked like before he started the work, and then the befores and afters. At this point, the outside's finished, except for the skirting around it.
Who did that?
Him and neighbors and friends.
That's starting. If you slide to
Excuse me, Anthony Perkins.
If you slide to your right, you should come up to current pictures at some point.
Well, there are things in here, so it looks as if it's finished.
That's what it looking, and where it rained, the water went down in and rotted the wood.
Oh, that's the way it started.
Yes.
I would like to see what it looked like when he got finished with it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Before somebody else fixed it. I see it's a disaster.
He did buy one sheet of subflooring and 15 sheets of, I don't know what you call it, 4x8 press wood or whatever, and 13 2x4s. But the 4x8 wood was left there. It wasn't put up. I had to pay someone
What
to
is
put it
this
up.
a picture of?
That is one of the back walls that he was supposed to do.
And what about this?
That's what was left when he left. That is one of the back walls that he was supposed to do.
And what about this?
That's what was back. I do have a video on my phone from July 16th where I'm walking through the house and it's just dirt and cans and everything's all
When was
over
the last time you were there, Mr. Joyner?
The middle of July, she texted me and told me if I can't be there. First, she hired my people out from underneath me because she could pay them cheaper.
Just a second.
No,
your people is who?
My stepson and the other guy that was
Yes,
working
so
there daily.
he hired your stepson,
She started
he
to
was-
pay them directly and told me she doesn't need me anymore.
Untrue.
I have a text message that states it.
I'd like
I don't
to
need you any longer.
I'd like to see it.
I did send him that, Your Honor, but that was a long time afterwards because I told him I couldn't wait any longer.
This is mid-July.
Here you go. I'm sorry. Got myself in trouble.
This is July 22nd.
Yes.
The job is supposed to be finished by then.
It would be impossible for me to give her an estimation on how long it's going to take.
It says so in the contract. It says 2 weeks.
But nothing.
It's just a second.
Sorry.
It says 2 weeks.
I don't know how much damage there is until I pull the siding off.
You
I
prepared
don't
the
know
contract.
how much damage there is.
You prepared the contract. As a matter of fact, initially it was something like 20, and then it was crossed out, and you both signed the contract agreeing that the job would be completed in 2 weeks. On July 22nd, according, never mind, I'll find someone else. I can't keep delaying this every day, so tell them don't waste your time, because I came all the way out here for what? When I didn't have to, all right? What is that about? I had
window contractors
not
going to come
coming
out
today. They're not going to make it. I had a ladder out there and it's gone. I do have another one. I'm at a meeting. I'll call you when I'm done. I want to know what it is, Mr. Joyner, that you in fact did. I know what you didn't do. I want to know what you did for $5,800.
I have $1,900 in receipts for material in front of me. I tore an entire back wall out. There was 3 windows, a bay window. I tore another door. All of the siding came off. Then she put out the people that were working for me because she could get it cheaper that way. She wanted me to pay him to be there, and I'm like, I'm not paying Tony. He don't work for me.
Untrue.
Her exact words. I need you to pay Tony for being there. I'm like, he doesn't work for me.
My question is, was all of that material that you paid for? You said
It was
nice.
left there. Now,
I'm
what happened to
speaking.
it, I do not know.
Speaking through all of that, and it's irritating to me to have to do that at this late hour in the day. When I go through each of those things, because I'm going to hear the truth from her, because she's the one who said he did, in fact, give me back the $400 for the window. So I'm going to believe her. Did you leave all of that material, and is all of that material for her house?
Yes.
Okay. And did you leave all of that material to see the bills? That's $1,900. So far, $1,900, and you left her a mess.
That's twice. Whatever.
What an idiot.
If he bought that much stuff, it didn't come to my house.
No, it didn't.
Don't speak to each other.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was speaking to you, ma'am. I'm sorry.
This was paid for by a gift card. Whose gift card?
The gift card she gave me.
So she paid for all this merchandise. She
With the gift
paid.
card.
She paid for all this merchandise.
Absolutely.
And you left, just a second.
Out of
and you
the
left it on her.
$5,800.
I want to know how much. I want to know how much she gave you in cash.
$3,500.
And I want to know what you did for the $3,500.
Tore all of the siding down. Replaced 2 walls.
Did you put up the siding?
No. She fired me prior to that.
Okay. What else did you do?
Tore all of the siding down.
Just a second. How many days did you work at pulling all the siding down?
3, maybe? Something to that effect? 2, 3 days?
1 day, 2 days, or 3 days? Then I'm going to ask you which days. You should have that. You're the contractor. How many days did it take you to tear down the siding?
It was torn down in phases because you can't tear it all down at one time.
Put up any siding?
No. We were replacing walls.
Well, then, if you took down the siding in phases and you didn't put up any siding, that there was a time that you tore out all the siding.
The
and all
pictures that you see with nothing but insulation, there's no walls there. On the other side of that insulation is the inside of her house. We tear this siding off. We tear this part of the sheeting off.
He
we
only
resheet
tore
it.
half the house down there. Your Honor, he only tore half the siding off the house, not the whole house. Only one side.
That didn't help her cause. I mean, if you were paying half attention and if you had half a brain, you would know that that didn't help her. What you just said didn't help her. Didn't really hurt her, but it didn't help her. Then you can stand outside.
No, I take pain.
Who finished the house for you?
Anthony Perkins and some of the neighbors
Just a
at the
second.
trailer park.
Are you talking about this man, Anthony Perkins?
Yes, ma'am.
The one with the bad back who can't sit up?
He informed...
Now, just a second. The one with the bad back that can't sit up. Is that what you're telling me?
He didn't do the physical labor, ma'am. It's the neighbors, and I have pictures up there of other people that I had and paid them in installments to do it.
Very good.
He was telling them what to do.
Very good. Listen, I'm about finished with this case. Do you understand? Cash?
35 in cash and 23 in gift cards.
Very, very good. And how many days did you work there, Mr. Joyner? You
2 weeks.
worked there. 2 weeks.
Me and 3 other men.
How many days did Mr. Joyner work there?
I wasn't present. He was living in the trailer. That's why he was there. And he was only there maybe 2 or 3 days. And his stepson, which is his name is Jimmy, I think he was maybe there 4 or 5 days.
Okay. Fine. Well, they were there, and they did in fact perform. And they did in fact perform some work. So you don't get. So you don't get for me to gauge how much. But since you don't have a bill for anybody for completing the work, I'm going to award you $1,000.
I do have the bills
for somebody to complete the work. I said, who completed the work? You said Jimmy, who was living there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And
I'm sorry.
neighbors.
I'm so sorry. Here is the bills for the siding.
Well, you didn't pay him for the side. I want to know how much you paid somebody to complete the work.
I paid I forget exactly. I'm sorry. $950 labor, and I paid almost $2,000 total for the material for the siding, and I have receipts.
Did you supply any siding?
No.
Oh, good. Then you to $2,500.
Now it's case number 310 on the calendar, the matter of Pennington versus Mobley.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Miss Pennington, when did you and the defendant start to date?
April of this year.
And when for the first time did you loan him money?
I loaned him money 3 weeks after that.
For what?
I gave him money for his car to be fixed, as well as money to get his LA Fitness back on order.
And how much were those?
$100 for AutoZone to get fixed for his car, and then another $150 for his LA Fitness membership.
Tell me how that came about.
He text messaged me asking me for money to get his car fixed to go back and forth to work. And I felt as though I needed to help him being his girlfriend, which we were in a relationship, a committed relationship within probably 2 weeks of when we met.
That's some commitment.
Yes. He asked me for the money to get his car fixed. And then he also asked me to...
Well, what did he say to you?
He said that he was not able to get back and forth to work, that he needed to get a head gasket set put on his car, and I loaned him the money.
Go ahead.
First one, everything that she gave me.
Don't start with everything. Let's start with car repair.
Yes, ma'am. The car repair, she gave it to me.
Well, tell me how she knew that your car needed repair.
I told her my car, my car
Well,
broke
tell me
down.
how did you tell her? Did you call her? Did you write her? Did you text her? Did you tell her when you were having lunch? How did you tell her that your car needed repair, Mr. Mobley?
On the telephone, Your Honor.
So you picked up a phone and you told her?
We was talking on the phone, and...
And you said?
I told her that my car was broke, and I needed help get my car fixed.
My car was?
My car needed to be fixed.
And you needed?
A head gasket.
You needed?
Help.
Now, at this time, according to you, she wasn't your girlfriend.
No.
And she was never your girlfriend.
No.
Well, then why would you ask her for money?
Because she said she'd help me.
No. Listen, I am older than Methuselah. However, I do have an intact memory of my dating time, when I was a younger person. And I don't remember ever saying to anybody, I'm going to help you out financially, unless they told me that they needed being helped financially. So my question to you is, why would you, Mr. Mobley, tell somebody that you weren't involved in a relationship? Could they give you money?
She offered, Your Honor.
There's something wrong with you.
Your Honor, she offered to help me, Your Honor. And when I told her my car was...
Just a second. Why would you tell someone that you weren't in a relationship, committed relationship with? Why would you have a conversation? My car's not right. I don't have money to fix it. I need it to go to work. Why would you burden somebody that you weren't in a relationship with all that baloney?
Because I knew she'd help me.
Ah, there you go. Because you knew. Just a second. I don't think you're adorable, by the way.
I think you are, though, Your Honor.
You're right. I am. I don't think you are.
Okay.
So you told her, now we got it right. Now you told her you're tailorable because you knew she would help you. That's being dishonest. And you knew she would help you because she liked you and because she thought you were in a relationship.
She loved me.
She loved you.
Yeah.
So then you were being doubly dishonest You were playing on her emotions, even though you knew you weren't in a committed relationship. Who are you?
I'm his friend, Your Honor. It was roommate.
Why didn't he ask you for money?
Because I'm in the same boat as he is, Your Honor.
Sit. And where I'm going, Mr. Mobley?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm trying to think if that is just a big empty suit that you're wearing. And so far, it's coming up empty. So far, it's coming up empty, Mr. Mobley. It's showing me a lot of bad character. So far, you needed money for your car under false pretenses because you asked somebody who cared for you, and you played on that to extract money from her. You're going to pay for your own car. And the car was $200. Now, did you use the same ploy when you needed money for your LA Fitness membership?
She took it upon herself, Your Honor, and called LA Fitness.
Let me see how that came about, Mr. Mobley. You work at LA Fitness. You train people there. That's what I gather from
I
here.
work out at LA Fitness.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a professional fighter.
So you're a professional fighter and you work out at LA Fitness?
I work out at LA Fitness, yes. That's to lift weights. I work for a company called XFC. It's a Extreme Fighting Championship. We do cage fighting, like UFC.
Great. But you work out at LA Fitness?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what would cause Miss Pennington to call LA Fitness? Look at me. What would cause her, as opposed to calling De Beers for diamonds or Harry Winston for a necklace for toilet paper, what would cause her to call LA Fitness?
First of all, I don't shop at Kmart.
Just a second. I don't. You understand? So you're not auditioning here, Mr. Mobley.
I know, Your Honor.
This is my program.
Okay.
So there's only one star here. Him.
All right.
Do we understand each other?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. What would cause her to call LA Fitness?
We talked. We had a conversation.
And Mr. Mobley.
We had a conversation, Your Honor,
about.
But I did not ask her to pay it.
No. That's not what I asked you. I said you had a conversation. You said...
My LA Fitness membership has expired.
And
that was it. I didn't ask her to pay it, John. It wasn't like
right?
I asked her.
Go ahead.
I actually have 90 pages of text messages stating exactly what happened during the car episode, exactly what happened during LA Fitness. I have soft copy and I still have a hard copy.
Car is a done deal. Car was $200.
Right.
LA Fitness is what I want to see. Just the emails from him about LA Fitness.
Yes, they're all in here as well.
Just take them out. I'm not going to read 90 pages.
No, I know.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, we got from 90 pages, we got to 1. This is incomprehensible. They're going to put something like this in a time capsule and bring it out 200 years from now and say that this was a generation of people who were total illiterates because of this texting business.
Mm-hmm.
The text speak. It's illiterate.
Oh, yeah. Do I get to see that, John?
Yeah.
Because I don't recall.
Mr. Mobley.
Sure. Thank you. But, John, anybody can send text messages.
Just a minute. I'm not asking you anybody. You asked to look at it. I'm showing it to you.
I don't remember sending this text message.
You don't remember it?
No,
I want you to read those through and tell me if any of the facts in those ring a familiar bell to you.
No.
Nothing?
No.
Well, then let me ask you more specifically, Mr. Mobley. I'll take it back. Who wrote Miss Pennington? What time?
I did.
I don't know nobody in St. Cloud.
It was a fighting match he had to go to that day.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true. I did have a fight.
Now, tell me about the probationary fines you paid for and when.
I paid for them on 7/16 of this year and 7/22 of this year.
How much?
$236.90, $751.90, and $236.90.
What were your probationary fines for, Mr. Mobley? Is not an answer, sir. What did you get into trouble for?
I got federally indicted by cocaine.
When?
5 years ago.
Did you serve any jail time?
Yes, a little bit, John.
How much?
Yeah, that's behind me. I'd rather not talk about that.
I don't care what you want to talk about, then you pay the money.
No.
They're your fines. And if we're going to find out what they are, then we'll find out what they are.
The fines is for, it was court fees.
So are you prepared to pay them?
No.
Very good. Then we'll get back to what were you convicted of, sir?
I was convicted of possession of cocaine when attempted distribution.
And how much time did you serve?
I served a month, Your Honor.
And how much probation?
Probation was 5 years.
She paid several sets of fines. Were they all involving the same?
Yes.
Well, why didn't you pay the fines?
She offered to pay the fines.
Why didn't you pay the fines?
Because I couldn't pay him at that time, Your Honor.
Why not? You bought that nice suit. Not at that time, at any time.
I was in a bind.
What do you mean you were in a bind? You're a big, strong guy. Go and wait tables. Go and work in a club. Go and work in McDonald's. Do something. You have probation fines. You pay them. Why should she pay your probation fines? She didn't sell cocaine.
No, she didn't, but Your Honor, this was 5 years ago.
She didn't sell cocaine 5 years ago or 10 years ago or yesterday. You did.
Yes.
They're your fines.
Yes.
So who should pay him?
She offered to pay him. I mean, I should pay him, but she offered to pay him.
You sold the cocaine. You pay the fines. That's the way the law works. You con somebody else into paying the fines, we should put you back in jail. They should have put you back in jail anyway if you didn't pay the fines.
Second chance, Your Honor. Everybody deserves a second chance.
Well, they gave you a second chance.
And I'm taking
as part
advantage
of
of
your
my
second chance, they said you have to pay these fines. That's part of the second chance. We're not going to put you in jail for 5 years. We're going to put you in jail for a month. And we're going to say, take a second chance, but you got to pay these fines. You say, I'm not paying these fines. I'm going to get some broad to pay.
I didn't say that at all.
Well, then how would she know, Mr. Mobley, since she wasn't your girlfriend and you weren't in an intimate relationship with her?
We was intimate.
No. Just Mr. Mobley. Mr. Mobley, having a physical relationship with somebody, as you well told me 5 minutes ago, doesn't mean you're in an intimate relationship. You said she wasn't my girlfriend.
She knew that, Your Honor. She knew.
There's something wrong with you. You think you're going to con me like you've been conning other people now for years? You're not going to con me, sir. You may be really good at fighting mixed martial arts, and you may be really good with the ladies, but I guarantee you I can wrap you around here. The cases to do today, and you're beginning to bore me. Let's understand each other.
Yes.
You sold the drugs.
Yes.
You pay the fines. We understand each other?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1575. Business venture together, according to your complaint, and that business venture was a salon business.
Yes.
It didn't work out. Business is no longer viable, but it is your claim that there was a business account from which Mr. Clemens paid personal expenses, unbeknownst to you. I'm not exactly sure, after reading Mr. Clemens' answer, what his defense is to that, except that he says you knew that he was paying personal expenses out of your business account. Okay. Miss O'Boyle, what is paid out of the business account?
I have them all here, Judge Judy. Target cards, beach bum tanning, Ranchero restaurant, Belk's.
During what period of time?
This was in April, and it was like a 5-day spending spree.
May I see it, please?
Yes.
Did you pay a Comcast bill out of this?
I do not know, Your Honor.
Well, if you don't know, and that's what it says, then I guess you did. Sally Mae. Sally Mae what?
It's a student loan bill.
$336.99. That sound right? I didn't ask you whether you paid it monthly. Maybe you missed a month.
I might have.
Might have. What about Sunoco, sir?
I did go on a business trip for the salon, which I did use the card for gas.
And how much did you put into the business account from that business trip?
How much did I put into the business account, ma'am?
There's an echo in here, Mr. Clemens. My question is, how much did you put into the business account from that business trip?
Well, I didn't take a paycheck. So basically, it depends on how much I had from that week that I would have made.
I don't think you're cute, actually. I don't think you're cute. I think that you did the wrong thing. Don't tell me what she knew. First of all, I'm looking at you and you're lying. First of all, I'm looking at you, and believe me, the hair goes up on the back of my neck when somebody is lying to me. And Mr. Clemens, I'm looking at you, and when you say to me, she knew, you're a liar. The camera will find that in your face so that the 10 million people who watch this at least once a day will see that look that I'm talking about. They're becoming very clued into that look, Mr. Clemens.
I'm not lying,
Very
Your
clued.
Honor.
Oh, yes, you are. You telling me that you told her that you had drawn out a check to pay for your student loan in the amount of $336?
Well, after the 12
you see that
beers
look,
she had
Miss
had-
Clemens, Mr. Clemens, the camera's getting you, sir. The camera gets liars. If what you're saying in your answer is she was drunk all the time, so she doesn't know what I told her and what I didn't tell her, what I think is you're a hustler and you took advantage of her.
No, ma'am.
I think you're a hustler and you took advantage of her and drew out an awful lot of money that didn't belong to you, that you didn't work for, and that you figured, well, I got this lady. She doesn't know. She's an old lady. What does she know? You know, I'm younger and I'm smarter, and I've been hustling all my life, and this is just another hustle.
No, ma'am.
Oh, see it. I see it. Because nobody who runs a business lets their partner, unless they're also drawing things out, paying personal expenses from the business account. Then some people say, you know what, I'll pay a couple of bills from the business account, you pay a couple of bills from the business account, and it'll be a wash. But that didn't happen in this account, Mr. Clemens. The only one who paid their personal expenses out of it was you.
She wrote herself checks from the account.
You.
She didn't use the card. She wrote herself checks.
What about
and had her clients pay her.
Just a second, Mr. Clemens. What about you? Did you not draw a salary from the business? Not draw a salary from the business.
A commission-based salary, yes, ma'am.
I don't think you're cute, Mr. Clemens, in case you haven't figured that out yet. Did you draw a salary from the business?
Yes, ma'am.
That would be the answer. And in addition to drawing a salary from the business, as Miss O'Boyle did, you also paid for your tan.
No, ma'am.
Believe me, I'm looking at her. She didn't go for a tan. That would be you. Listen, Miss O'Boyle, he's a hustler. You're not supposed to go into business with hustlers. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay. It's your dollars. That's all. Step out.
It's case number 197 on the calendar, the matter of Beeson versus Barth Lemke.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Have a seat, please.
Mr. Beeson, how long have you and the defendants been neighbors?
A little over 2 years.
How long have you lived in your house?
38 years.
So you bought the house 2 years ago?
Yep.
Yep is not an answer. Yes is an answer.
Yes.
Who lives in the house?
We do.
Just the two of you?
Yep. Yes.
With our children.
I have 50-50 custody of my kids, so they're there half the time.
How old are they?
6, 7, and 11.
Prior to the defendants moving in, Mr. Beeson, how many neighbors did you have that occupied their home?
Approximately 5.
Did you ever have occasion to sue any of the other neighbors?
Absolutely not.
That's a no.
Nope.
Did you ever have occasion to call the police or become involved with the authorities with any one of the neighbors?
No.
What kind of dogs do you have?
Rottweilers.
How many Rottweilers do you have?
2. 1 now. The male Rottweiler got adopted.
The male Rottweiler was how old?
7.
Who had the male?
They were actually her dogs before I met her, so.
I owned him for 8 years.
You must have farmed out the one, found another home for the one, because you felt the male was aggressive.
No.
Then explain why, after 8 years, you got rid of one of the dogs.
Because Mr. Beeson came over 2 days after the dog bite and told me that if I did not get rid of my dog, he would sue us. So I took what was better for my family and got rid of the dog because I didn't want to have to go through a lawsuit with him.
Who bought the house?
I did.
And when you say you had 50-50 custody of your children, the two of you have been together for how long?
3 years. We lived in the house.
Always comfortable with your little children around the Rottweilers?
Yes.
Great. Either of them bite anybody before?
No.
So Mr. Beeson was the first person that they
Yes.
bit? And he was bitten by the male?
Yeah. Yes.
Where was he bitten by the male? In what part of his body?
The face.
Were you at home when that happened?
Yes.
What date was it? Time?
October 24th.
Don't look at her. If you don't know the answer, I'll ask her.
24th, a year ago.
Were the dogs in the backyard?
Yes.
Were you in the backyard?
No.
Were you in the backyard?
Yes.
So you were in the backyard when this incident happened?
Yes.
Just listen to me. Very careful, because I'm going to see all the reports. Were you in the backyard with the dogs?
It occurred?
Yes. So you witnessed it?
Correct.
I'm ready.
For the start, okay.
I'm ready. October 24th, 2017. You're in your backyard with your two dogs.
Todd and I it started where Todd and I were in the garage, working in the garage. I heard my dogs start barking.
Just a second. You and your boyfriend are in the garage.
Correct.
And the dogs are in the backyard, fenced in.
Yes.
Alone.
Yes.
You heard them start to bark.
Correct.
And you left the garage.
Correct. And walked around the side of the garage to the backyard to see what the dogs were barking at.
Go ahead.
And as I was walking back there, Mr. Beeson was opening our fence.
So he was opening his gate?
Yes.
On his property?
Correct.
Go ahead.
And the gate that he has on his property, he has butted up to our fence on our property. So when he was opening the gate up to our fence, he stumbled and leaned over the fence to catch a step where my dogs were there barking at him prior to him starting opening the gate.
And that's when his face got bit?
Yes.
I'll see your medical bills now, sir. Were any of these bills covered by insurance?
What I paid.
Amount due, the $1,038.
Correct. And the other one, I believe, was $3,000.
I'm not talking about for the back surgery.
Okay.
Let's not talk about back surgery.
Correct.
Let's talk about the visit that you had as a result of the dog bite.
Okay.
Because that's not a physician, correct?
Correct.
Right. And without a physician, I'm not connecting your back surgery with a dog bite. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor, I had an MRI done on the 30th, 6 days after, because
Sir, listen to me carefully.
Okay.
Without a physician to testify, I am not going to correlate your back surgery with
Understood.
Perfect. Now, Mr. Beeson, this incident happened, according to you, on the 24th of October.
Correct.
The date of service of the two things that you have dog-related are the 23rd of October that you've just given me.
I'm incorrect. The top two are dog-related, and the second one's 10/19 of 17, and the other one is 10.
Listen to me, sir.
Yes.
You can't go for a visit to the doctor before you're bitten on the face. So anything that happened before the 24th of October, you want to take a pen and circle what you claim are dog-related expenses.
This is 10/23 of 17.
It can't be 10/23. The incident didn't happen until the 24th.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Beeson, there's no question that you were bitten. The defendant says you were bitten by her dog. I just want your expenses, and you had to have gone to an emergency room or something as a result of being bitten on the face by a Rottweiler.
Correct.
That's what I want to see.
8/24/17 is when the incident happened. These other charges, one was 10/19, which is 2 months after.
I'm entertaining that, sir.
Okay, but they aren't before, Your Honor.
Well, did you tell me that this happened on August 24th or October 24th?
August 24th.
Is that correct? Yes. August 24th. Oh, fine. Now I want to see the emergency room visit on or about the 24th of August. Nothing else.
Yes, Your Honor.
Nothing in October. No surgery in October, unless, of course, you had plastic surgery on your face. Then I'll see that.
I have the ER, and then I have the incident report from the police.
So far, I'm going to see the bill, but Bird doesn't like to walk too much, so you can give him the incident report. He'll give it to me later.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And we actually...
Go back to the... Did you have a bill for this ER visit?
And we actually brought him to the hospital.
Yes, Your Honor.
Just a second. Just tell me, how much was that ER visit and how much did you pay for that ER visit?
Okay, Your Honor, my total amount that I paid out of pocket was $75.
Okay. That's all. That's all I want to know. You spoke to the police?
Yes.
When was the prior bite of this dog?
Prior bite?
Yes.
I wasn't aware of a prior bite.
Yes, you were. Your name is Todd, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just put your hand down. I wouldn't call the sheriff a liar if I were you, Todd. Okay. And the sheriff made a report contemporaneously to speaking with you.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes.
Are you telling me that the sheriff was lying when he wrote in this report? He was making up the fact that you told him that his dog had bit someone before, but it was never reported. You're telling me that this is something that the sheriff made up?
No.
Okay.
No.
Now, okie dokie. So, Todd, that's something that you had to tell him.
Yes.
And you wouldn't tell him that if it was a lie, would you?
No.
Because that wouldn't have been a good thing if you told him that my dog bit before.
No.
All right. So now I would like you to tell me when the dog bit before.
He came up and said that to Delwyn because there was no police report for that one.
Mr. Beeson came over to us.
Todd stated that his dog had bitten someone before, but it was never reported.
Mr. Beeson came up to us and said that his dog and our dog were fighting over the fence, and he put his hands in the middle and got bit. We don't know if it was his dog or our dog, and no one's seen it. His dogs and our dogs fight constantly.
Yeah, going by that. Okay. I believe that was said when we were sitting in the hospital room while I was waiting for him, because I brought him up there.
And I don't care where it was said. I'm just telling in his report. Okay. Do you have photographs of the bite?
Yes, I do,
I'd
Your
like
Honor.
to see it, please.
Thank you.
You have homeowners insurance?
Yes.
Why didn't you go through his homeowners insurance?
Your Honor, I did.
And what happened?
When they bought their house, they got homeowners insurance through Badger Mutual out of Wisconsin. One of the things they have to do when they apply for homeowners insurance is they have to tell the insurance company if they have any dogs, how many, and what breed. They informed they had Rottweiler/Pit Bull. Rottweiler and Pit Bull are among the three most...
So just a second.
Yes.
Would you just tell me?
Okay.
So they informed the insurance company that they had them.
And insurance was denied. They're blacklisted. Those dogs are blacklisted, so there's no insurance.
So they don't have homeowners insurance?
Not on the dogs, correct. And they knew that. And I have evidence from... I'm sorry.
You don't need any more evidence, sir.
Thank you.
You don't look like bad people, so I'm not. No one has, to my knowledge, successfully sued insurance companies who refuse to insure people who have certain breeds of dogs. I may be wrong about that. That's because it's as if you live in a flood zone and you live in a place that has hurricanes. And I live in Florida. You can get flood insurance in Florida. You can get hurricane flood insurance in Florida. But they make it so prohibitive, so you go like this. You keep your fingers crossed. Many people do. Now, they do that because people should be aware of the fact that if you live in a place, tornadoes to floods to flooding, you sort of assume the risk if you buy beachfront property that you may be washed out to sea. Yeah. Earth is getting warmer, seas are getting bigger. Do you understand? There's a reason why insurance companies won't insure people for their dogs. Only certain breeds. Not every dog. They don't have Chihuahuas on the list. Shih Tzus aren't on the list. Poodles aren't on the list. Rottweilers are on the list. You know that, correct? Mm-hmm. Uh-huh isn't an answer.
Yes.
But you have Rottweilers. Yet you choose to have a dog that cannot be insured in your home because a company, big companies, have said, with this particular breed, we will not insure it. Just as we have had so much difficulty in houses in Florida or in the Bahamas that we're not going to insure those houses against certain catastrophes. Do you understand? They're entitled to do that. So I, as a homeowner, would say to myself, now I don't have insurance for any incident involving my dog. You did know that, correct?
Yes.
Is that correct? Did you know that you didn't have homeowners insurance? Did you have to check what kind of dogs you had?
I didn't know that you had to.
He bought the house prior to me moving in.
Your insurance company was contacted by the plaintiff. There is no...
Yep.
Not a yup.
Yes.
That's a yes.
Yes.
And your insurance company said, sorry, we told them that the house was insured against for floods, for termites, for glass, for break-in, but not for anything that had to do with their dogs. What are you shaking your head for?
I
you
agree.
Remember that?
Yes, I agree.
Right, which means that you assume the risk of your dogs, not your insurance company. So you're going to pay him $5,000. And I'm dismissing your counterclaim. Goodbye. Bengal cats.
Yes, ma'am.
They're beautiful.
Thank you.
I bought one for one of my grandchildren 10 years ago. She got very big.
Yes.
Beautiful. And you like them. You purchased a Bengal cat from Miss Apsher. You liked it so much you wanted to get another. When you buy a cat, I assume when you buy a cat when you buy a purebred dog, if you're buying it as a pet, you pay one price. If you're buying it as a breeding animal, you pay a different price. You do know that. You bought as a pet.
Right.
And you paid how much for that cat?
$13.
That was a male or a female?
A male.
So you wanted a female.
Right.
Which meant, for those of you who don't know that out there, I believe this is the drill, that if you purchase it as a pet, you don't get the CFA papers, Cat Fanciers Association papers, unless the pet is neutered. Isn't that the way you usually sell them?
I sell them neutered before they leave.
So the male was neutered?
Yes, ma'am.
And the female, she said she wanted to use for breeding purposes?
Correct.
So that you did not have the female neutered, and it cost $2,000. And you paid her $2,000.
Yes.
And then, for some reason, you reversed $1,400 of that.
Right. Because?
Because why?
Because we had an agreement that when I decided...
Look at me.
Because we had the agreement whenever I had decided to breed the cats, that I could get the cat for $600, but she would get the pick of the litter of the cat that she got. It was no deadline on the cat.
Just a second. Did you have that agreement with her?
No, ma'am.
Do you know why she reversed the $1,400?
No, ma'am.
Did you ever try to find out?
Yes, ma'am.
And what happened?
And she didn't pull the money back. I sent her documentation showing that it was pulled back, and she said that wasn't her.
Well, she's just giving me a whole different story.
That's correct.
That's not so.
Of course it's so.
No, me and her had a conversation.
Just a second. Well, the question is either you did pull it back.
I did pull the money back, and she agreed to it.
You pulled the money back, and what you're telling me is she agreed to it.
Yes.
When did you give her the money? On what date?
December the 17th is whenever I had purchased the cat.
And when did you pull the $1,400 back?
I believe it was January or February, one of those two.
On what day was it?
There were several different transactions where each payment she paid through PayPal were different dates between January and February.
But she had given you a check.
No, ma'am.
What did she give you?
She made payments online through PayPal.
So when she took possession of the cat,
The cat was paid in full when she took possession in December. And then I received emails from PayPal stating the charges were being disputed and the payments were being pulled back.
After she took, so now I understand. So she paid for the cat in full.
That's correct.
Full through PayPal, and then she picked the cat up on December 17th, and subsequent to that, she disputed the charges and started to take out the $1,400.
Correct.
So she had paid for it before she picked up the cat.
That's correct.
Now, let me tell you the story that you told me here. The story that you told me here is that the male cat got out and got killed.
Afterwards, the first one, yes.
When?
It was in the beginning of January, but the reason why, she never gave me a deadline to when I could give her a litter of the cat. So that's the reason.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $14.
This is case number 576 on the calendar in the matter of Ferrari versus Gullings, Rude, and Reed.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Ms. Ferrari, is this your daughter?
Yes, it is.
And you don't know anything about this incident whatsoever because you weren't there. The only reason you're here is because the car in question was in your name? Time.
19.
And this incident happened well over a year ago.
I think it's just under a year.
Date?
April 18th of last year.
A year ago?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see if I can briefly put the case in perspective. It is your claim that she took the car keys without your permission, had an accident with your car. And I'm not quite clear about what happened to the car, but according to your complaint, you had to get a new car and you want her to pay you the damages to the old car, even though you don't have the old car anymore.
Yes.
When did you get rid of the old car?
In July of last year.
And between April 18th and July, where was the car?
Sitting in my grandma's.
In your possession?
Yeah.
And then you sold it?
Yes.
To whom?
Craigslist.
And how much did you sell it for?
$1,500.
When did you purchase the car that you sold for $1,500?
I never did. It was my grandma's old car.
Did you pay for it?
No.
So it was a gift?
Yes.
And you sold the gift for $1,500. What year car was it?
2001.
2001 what?
Toyota Corolla.
So the car was a 12-year-old car a year ago?
Yes.
So is your claim they took the car, they had an accident, and they should be responsible for what? I don't know. They tell a whole different story. So you, and this is your boyfriend, and she was there with who?
Matthew.
Matthew.
Mm-hmm.
You know Matthew, right?
Yes.
And this was on April 18th, 2000.
Left that morning, April 18th, to bring Matthew to his Army base in Duluth, which is an hour away from where we lived.
So you were going to take her boyfriend?
No, he's just a friend of ours.
Friend?
Mm-hmm.
To his Army base?
Yep.
And where were you staying?
At the time, I lived on my school's campus.
So you were in your dorm?
Yes.
All four of you?
Oh, all four of us were at his dorm, at Tim's dorm.
Go. Tell me the story.
We left that morning at about 5 o'clock in the morning.
Who left?
Me, Matthew, Tyler, and Tim.
What's her first name?
Tyler.
Tyler. So she was in the car?
Yes. That's not true. Sorry.
You don't know that. You weren't there.
Right.
You only know what she told you.
Right.
Right.
The roads are really bad. Tim was driving. He's driven her car previously, so he felt comfortable with driving.
Stop. All right, Tim, I'm going to talk to you for a minute.
Yes, ma'am.
What time did you leave on the 18th?
About 5 o'clock.
Tell me step by step what happened. You get up and?
We got up, and Matthew was ready to go.
Who was we?
Me, Nicasia, Tyler, and Matthew. We're all leaving. Nicasia was moving onto the dorm, so she had a lot of stuff in her car. So Tyler said, let's take her car, so we took her car.
So you were going to take Tyler's car. How did you end up driving Tyler's car?
She gave me the key.
Go ahead.
We were about 20, 30 minutes out. The radio was playing. And she asked me what I turned. I was trying to stay focused on the road because it was icy. So she took off her seatbelt, and she literally came up to the front to turn the radio up. And that's when her elbow bumped the steering wheel, which caused me to get off track. And I tried to swerve us back on, but we slid off the road.
How many times had you driven Tyler's car before?
About 4 or 5 times.
Prior to the 18th of April, where had you driven her car?
To Duluth, which is an hour away, where we were going. Went out to eat there lots of times.
And you would drive?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Reed ever drive your car before?
Yes.
How many times?
Once.
Where?
To Duluth, like you said.
Only one time?
Yes.
Did you tell your mother about that?
I had told her that they had driven, that I hadn't driven after the accident when she asked.
Tell me what she asked you.
She asked, had they ever driven my car before?
And you said?
Yes.
And she said?
Oh.
Was one of the rules nobody else was supposed to drive your car?
No.
Your mother never told you nobody else was supposed to drive the car except you?
No.
Really? Did you ever tell her that?
No.
Then why would you ask her if they ever drove your car before? Why would you even ask that question?
I don't know.
If you hadn't said to your daughter, I don't want anybody else driving the car, why would you have even asked if somebody had driven the car before?
They had driven the car when I was with them. I wasn't with them when they crashed it.
But that's not my question.
Okay.
You know what my question was. Okay, now I have their story. Now you tell me your story.
Boyfriend's dorm, which is connected with his, and around 6:37, they knocked on the door to wake me up and said that they had to talk to me. They showed me the tow ticket from it being pulled out from the ditch, and I assumed that they had taken it somewhere and gotten it towed, and then they said...
Well, you knew Matthew had to be at his base the next morning. You were all staying together, so you knew somebody was driving him there. You knew that?
Yes.
And you talked about that the day before?
Yes, but they told me that they would be taking Nicassia's car.
Was Nicasia moving?
She had already been moved in.
Did she have stuff in her car?
Yes.
Where is your boyfriend?
Back in Minnesota.
And he would be a witness to the fact that you were there and did not go in the car?
Yes.
What's his name?
Darius.
Did you ever speak to Darius, Miss Ferrari?
No.
Why not? I mean, you knew that this was their defense. Their defense was that your daughter was in the car that night.
I did not know that until right now.
Really?
Yes.
When for the first time did you advise anyone that the plaintiff was in the car that night?
The day that it happened, she called her mom and told her that, Mom, I was driving my vehicle and we went in the ditch. And then a week later, that's when she got her Nissan Altima. So from then, that is when her mom said that she wanted to get that car fixed. So Tyler didn't want to pay for the damages.
Just a second. Were you present when she told her mother that she was in the car?
No, told her mom that she was in the vehicle and she was driving because she didn't want her mom to know that somebody else was driving the vehicle.
So, according to you, Miss Ferrari told her mother that she was driving?
Yes, because she did not want
initially?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Did your daughter tell you initially that she was driving?
No.
What did she tell you?
She told me that Nicasia and her boyfriend had taken the car.
Don't buy it. Doesn't make sense to me.
We have text messages and messages from her mom that I got a hold of her mom got a hold of me.
Did you have any text messages from her?
I have some from her that said...
I'd like to see those. If you say that they acknowledge that she was responsible, I'd love to see it.
The top ones are from her mom and then the bottom.
Well, her mother says, please send me 3 estimates. Upon the car getting fixed with the lowest estimate, I will pay the body shop. Thank you. That's her mother. Well, her mother is saying that. Why didn't you sue her? What are you suing Nicasia for?
Because farther down, it says that she found out that Nicasia wasn't driving, that her boyfriend was driving.
Oh, hold on a second.
Okay.
Fred, would you look up this car, please? It's a 2001 2-door or 4-door? 4-door. Toyota Corolla.
2050.
So the car's worth $2,000. You're so telling me why you're suing her for $2,000? Did you have the car fixed?
No.
Well, where did you get that figure from?
We just took it off the lowest estimate.
But you sold the car for $1,500.
Yes.
Okay, so my question to you, Natasha, is this. She says to you, I'm going to have to take further action. And you say, I totally understand, but I do not have a penny to my name right now. I'm living paycheck to paycheck, and it's hard to support myself and take care of the car situation. I'm not able to give you anything as of right now.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that would suggest to me that you had felt some sort of fault.
Well, they didn't give me any estimates as far as how much they wanted for it.
That's not my question, madam. My question is, that suggests to me you assumed from this some sort of fault. Now, the only fault that you could have assumed was if you took the keys to the car and she was not in the car.
I had a spare key that she had given me a week before.
And?
And I've driven her car previous times without her.
So is what you're saying to me that she was not in the car?
No, she was, but she was aware of me with her car previously.
No, that doesn't make sense.
Well, we were friends, that's why I felt.
Knowledge, liability. I mean, this is your boyfriend. The story he tells is that you were all in the car, and because she was playing around with the radio, nudged his arm, he went off the road.
Yes, ma'am.
If that was the fact, then I wouldn't say, what do you want me to do? You know, I'm living from hand to mouth, paycheck to paycheck. I can't pay you for the car right now.
Well, her mother had kept telling me that I had to do something about it, me and my mother.
Well, I don't care what her mother tells you. You're pretty tough. Mother answers you after you say, I can't give you anything as of right now. And then, I mean, you get sort of nuts about this whole thing. I mean, I don't know what's wrong with you, Miss Ferrari. The car's worth $200. What are you getting so crazy about? Do you work?
Yes.
I assumed you had more time on your hands. This is a little bit crazy, right?
Right.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500. This is your son. How old are you, young man?
27.
And you want him to pay you for rent that he didn't pay when he was living with you. And from when to when did he live with you?
He moved in with me the end of May, and he moved out on November 1st while I was at work.
And between May and November, did he pay rent?
No.
Why didn't you throw him out?
Because he's my son.
Good. Then I'm not entertaining your application for rent.
He had nowhere to go.
Listen to me. That's it. If your son is living with you and he doesn't pay rent, you either say, okay, he's my son, he has no place to go, in which case, don't bother me later, or any other court, or you a victim. You chose to do neither. Now let's get to this loan that you say you made to him for tires. Go.
Okay. He needed to get his car licensed, and he didn't have the money to get new tires on his Yukon on my credit card, and he was supposed to pay me back.
Were you supposed to pay her back for the tires?
No, ma'am.
Tell me about the tires.
It was part of the trust money she got from my grandma.
And?
And there was no talk about me paying her back for them.
Well, tell me how she came to go down and put it on her credit card, and the product that she purchased was a product for you.
Yes. We went down, she put it on her credit card, the tires were put on my Yukon, and that was it.
How did you know that your car couldn't pass inspection?
Because when I got it inspected last year, that's what they said wouldn't pass this year.
Well, when did you have a discussion with her about the tires?
Mid-July of last year.
Okay. Now, you had been living there May and June, and July is when you put this on your credit card for
July
the tire?
1st.
Rent in May or June, according to you.
Correct.
And he was supposed to.
Right.
So what made you think he was going to pay you for the tires?
Because he promised me.
He also promised, according to you, that he'd pay you for rent.
Correct.
And he didn't pay you for rent.
I trusted him.
Well, then, why did you trust him? Because he's your son.
What
All
else
right, let
am
me
I
tell you how
supposed
much I trust you. I trust you this much. When he left his television there. How much did you sell his television for?
$600.
Why did you sell his television?
Because it was left in my apartment.
Why did you leave it in your mother's
She
apartment?
told me if I didn't leave it that she was going to call the cops and said I stole it.
Did you tell him that?
No. I didn't know he was moving out.
She did. I have text messages showing that she told me to get out.
Can I see them?
Yep. And it also shows that I did pay money.
What's this?
My mom died.
And?
I inherited a little bit of money from her.
And?
And I gave him a cashier's check for $2,000 for that. And that was it.
When?
Back in April.
April of what year?
2013.
So in April of 2013, you gave him $2,000.
Correct.
Well, what do you mean he had no place to go in May? You gave him $2,000, he had a place to go.
He got in a fight with his boyfriend, and his boyfriend beat him up.
And?
And so he had to come stay with me.
Why?
Because I had nowhere to go. He has no friends, no family.
He had $2,000.
Exactly.
He could go anywhere.
He had already spent it.
What'd you spend it on?
I paid off my Yukon.
Nice conversation between parents and a child. Really nice. I don't see anything there about her holding the TV hostage other than saying, don't take the TV. Did you leave when she wasn't there?
Yes, I did.
Why didn't you take the TV?
She didn't want me to take it.
Okay. So, what are you suing her for?
The TV that she sold?
No, she sold it. She said she paid for your tires. How much for your tires?
$650.
And she told this television set for?
$600.
Purchase. Who was Anthony?
My ex-boyfriend.
He's passed away.
Yes, ma'am.
But Anthony was your former boyfriend.
Yes, ma'am.
And a friend of yours.
Yes, ma'am.
This is your complaint. While your boyfriend was alive, you bought him a shell of a car. You paid $350 for it. You paid $350 and gave the car to Anthony.
Yes, ma'am.
And you gave the car to Anthony because, according to you, you wanted him to follow his dream to build this race car.
Yes, ma'am.
Anthony died.
Yes, ma'am.
How old was he when he died?
21.
And he died accidentally.
Yes, ma'am, at work.
And Mr. Goodman, according to you, purchased the car from you for $350.
Yes.
And you want the balance of that.
Yes, ma'am.
Did Anthony die immediately after the accident?
Yes, ma'am.
So let me explain what your legal problem is. You have no right to sell the car.
But the car was mine.
No, the car was Anthony's because you say you gave it to Anthony. Once you give it to Anthony, it's a gift.
Anthony was supposed to be paying me back for it as well.
That's not what you say here. And that's what you said a moment ago. You said, I gave him the car because I wanted him to follow his dream. Once you make a gift to someone, it no longer belongs to you. The car would necessarily revert to his relatives, his mother and father. They could make a decision. It's not up to you to make a decision about what happens with Anthony's property.
Well, when Anthony had passed away, his father had gave the car back to me.
Listen to me. Is his father here?
No.
You have no case, Miss Harwood. Absent a will or some other writing showing that this piece of property belongs to you.
I have the messages from his stepmother, who is with his daddy right now, saying the car was mine.
I'm telling you it wasn't. I asked you what happened. You told me that you gave Anthony, you wanted him to follow his dream, and he died. And there was no agreement for Anthony to pay for the car because you don't say that in your complaint. Now, Ms. Harwood, I'm going to keep it simple for you. The car wasn't yours to sell.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, that being said, the car was in your possession and Anthony's possession at the time of his death?
It was in Anthony's shop.
Tell me the conversation you had with her about the car.
I told her that, you know, she didn't know how to work on a race car, how to build a race car. She didn't have a job at the time, so she wouldn't have the money to build a race car. And, you know, me and Anthony were like brothers.
Listen, don't tell me the whole story. I want to know about the car.
That was basically it. And I was just...
And? What did she say about payment?
I gave her the $100. We wrote out a receipt.
Can I see the receipt?
Actually, my son threw it in the toilet a couple days before.
You gave her $100?
Yes, ma'am.
On what date?
About March the 23rd, I think it was.
Of this year?
Yes, ma'am. He passed away March 15th.
Just a second. And this is the new boyfriend?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, case number 306 on the calendar, the matter of Silverman versus Foley.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
Ms. Silverman, it is your claim that the defendant's 2 dogs attacked your dog. The dog was seriously injured. You have substantial vet bills. I would like you to start out by telling me the date, time, and exact location.
It was June 10th, right after work, about 5 p.m. My roommate and I, Virginia, were walking my dog.
What kind of dog do you have?
It's a 40-pound adopted mutt.
It's 40 pounds, so it's a good-sized dog.
Yeah.
How old is the dog?
11 years old.
And how long have you had her?
Less than a year at that point.
And it was a rescue?
From a foreclosure, yes.
What does that mean?
The previous owners got foreclosed upon and couldn't keep her.
And you knew these people?
Yes.
So you knew the dog?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So it was around 5 p.m., like I said. We were walking in a park, and we were coming down the hill. Miss Foley and her 2 dogs were coming up the hill, and I saw her, and I said, my dog is friendly, and she said in return, and that's when the attack happened.
So you were close by?
We were, yeah. There's no way you could avoid each other on the pathway, unless, usually when someone has an angry dog or a vicious dog, they actually pull off the
side. But Miss Foley said, my dogs usually are, and at that moment, tell me exactly what happened.
The first thing that happened was the bigger pit bull, they were both pit bulls, grabbed onto my dog's ear and pulled her in and started shaking. The next thing I know, there was blood everywhere because they went for her stomach, and my dog just looked up at me and didn't fight back and just cried. I mean, it was the most horrifying experience I've had to witness. And it was about a good 2-3 minutes that this happened. Went for her legs. I have pictures of her. I thought that her limbs were broken because they bite down hard. The second that the first pit bull broke loose, and the whole time I didn't know what to do. You know, you fight the urge to stick your hand in to separate them. Virginia has never had a dog before, so she actually went to stick her hand in. I pulled her out. Miss Foley did not stop her from doing that. After the first one let go, which she had no control, it just ran its course. I started screaming up because I didn't know what to do. I was trying to call for help. The second one clamped on, and I tried to hit it in the jaw, and it just finally let go. There was just blood everywhere.
And when the dogs were separated, your dog was seriously injured.
Yes.
Did anyone come and help you take the...
Busted or an artery. So I tried to get her to walk, and she was obviously limping because one of the bites was actually almost through the joint. They couldn't tell. I have a picture of it from this side. And we're at the bottom of a hill. I can't carry a 40-pound dog all the way up. So, yes, a couple heard me screaming. They came down. Her husband carried my dog up to the first parking lot where I called the ranger.
And you got your car?
Yes.
Can I see the photographs of the dog, please, and the veterinary bills? I'll hear you now.
Your Honor, I am a police officer with LAPD. I know the rules and the regulations.
Just tell me what happened, please.
Yes, ma'am. That day, I was finishing a 2-hour walk-run with my dogs. They were on 6-foot leashes, which is the rule for the Conejo Open Space Conservation Agency. It is documented online.
Listen to me very carefully.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want you to tell me what happened. You were walking your dogs.
Yes, ma'am.
They were leashed. Go ahead.
They were leashed. We were walking up the hill. We came to a corner. My dogs...
Now look at me.
Yes, ma'am. My dogs were on the 6-foot leash, but I had the leash wrapped around my hand. They were both on my left side. I saw a dog come around 15 feet to 20 feet right on that corner. Her dog was on the far end on an expandable leash, which was approximately 12 to 15 feet expanded out. 6 foot is the law, Your Honor. I did not see her or anybody else come around the corner with the dog. I did, however, hear music. As soon as I saw the dog, I had my dog sit, because that is what I do when I walk my dogs. Standard. Policy with me and my dogs. They know it.
I don't care about policy.
I want you to understand what I was doing, Your Honor.
I understand what you were doing.
Yes,
your
ma'am.
dogs are, according to you, leashed and under your control.
Yes, ma'am.
According to your testimony, her dog was on an expand under her immediate control. Don't editorialize, Miss Foley.
Yes, ma'am.
Just tell me what happened.
Absolutely. I pulled them back. They sat next to me on my left side. We were up against a dirt embankment, so I had nowhere else to go. Her dog ran over to my dog, bit him on the nose, and then the attack continued. That is when my dogs defended themselves and myself from a vicious dog.
I don't believe that.
That is what happened.
No, I have a hard time believing that.
Ma'am, even in the paperwork from the incident report that happened that day, she said that her dog ran over to mine. Absolutely did
I
not.
believe it.
I have it written right here, ma'am, if you want to see.
I would like to see it. One of them bit your dog. You've had proof by a vet that your dog was seen for a dog bite on the nose?
I have pictures, ma'am.
I have a witness.
You can see photos.
Right. My question was, do you have...
And then 8 days later, her statement changed completely.
Are you listening?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any reports from a veterinarian that your dog was bitten on the nose?
No, ma'am. But I have photos taken at the time, after the incident, also
I'd like
of
to see,
the scuff marks. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see them.
Your Honor, how do I know that's not my dog's blood?
I don't know.
Or that her...
You didn't see the picture yet, did you?
No.
So you don't know what we're looking at. There's a lot of blood on the pit bull.
Yes, ma'am.
But I don't know.
Do you see his nose, Your Honor? That's the first bite. Also, the one you're looking at, Your Honor, that was injured the most is a brown lab mixed with pit, and the other dog is a Staffordshire.
Come up here, please, Miss Foley.
Yes, ma'am.
Foley, are you suggesting to me that this was a result of her dog coming up and biting your dog in the nose? That this area here, is that what you're telling me?
Ma'am, it's this right here is the
and
first
what is
prick.
this?
That is from continued biting, Your Honor.
And what about this picture here?
That is from her dog as well.
Is what you're telling me that this blood over here and these marks didn't inspire you to take your dog to a vet?
Your Honor,
just a sense, that requires a yes, or you can step back.
Yes,
that requires either a yes or a no.
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, what kind of leash do you walk your dog on?
At that time, I did have a retractable leash.
So the dog was walking ahead of you?
It was 1 or 2 feet extra, and that is not the cause of the attack.
Your dog was walking ahead of you?
Yes.
Not under your immediate control?
No, she was under my control.
No, she wasn't.
I will let her go say hello to a dog. I will stipulate to that.
When you went and let her go and say hello to a dog, your testimony to me was that she was right next to you, passing. But that doesn't sound possible if your dog was on one of those retractable leashes and was at least 2 or 3 feet beyond what the 6 foot, so she was 10 feet away from you. That doesn't, in my mind, coincide with passing right next to each other. Okay. Did you have a radio on?
I had my iPhone on.
And you were with a friend?
Yes.
So you didn't have your earphones on?
No, and there's a reason for that.
I don't care what the reason is. I'm just trying to set the scene of what was going on. Now, Miss Foley.
Female dog, the Staffordshire, is 8, and the pit mixed with brown lab, Sasha, is approximately 3.
When did you get him?
I adopted them from a police officer approximately 1.5 to 2 years ago.
Why?
They were having children, and they didn't have time.
They're very smart. Now, had either of these 2 dogs, to the best of your knowledge, when they were with the other officer, had any difficulties with other dogs?
No, Your Honor.
In the 1.5 that you've had these 2 dogs, have they had any difficulty with other dogs?
Yes, Your Honor.
When?
When I took them up to my aunt and uncle's house.
Tell me about it.
Yes, ma'am. We went to their house. Somebody, they have acres and land. I was thinking they'd have fun playing, but ended up that their dog and my dog, they didn't get along.
And?
My dogs actually got in a fight with their dog.
What kind of dog did they have?
It's, I think it's a mixed dog, but I know it's a farm dog.
Was their dog injured?
No. No injuries.
These 2 dogs got into a fight with another dog and there were no injuries?
There were no injuries, Your Honor. It was pulled away very quickly.
How long ago was that?
That was the spring of this year.
Your Honor, when I spoke to...
Just a second.
Okay.
Is that the only incident involving your dogs?
Yes, Your Honor.
You have information to the contrary?
Yes, when I spoke to animal control.
Animal control you. Okay. But if it's true that there is a prior history with animal control, it's something that can be...
They did tell me they had been to her house before and there was an incident with her dogs at her property.
Can I explain that, Your Honor?
Yes.
I was at work. I received a phone call from Sheriff's Department stating that my dogs were out. Basically what happened was when I put the garage door down, it bounced back up. I didn't realize it when I left, and so they got out. So Sheriff's Department knocked on the door. My son answered it. Dogs were put back in without incident, Your Honor. It was just logged.
Okay, Miss Silverman.
Yes.
I'm very sorry that your dog was injured. Miss Foley was following the requirements of keeping her dogs at tight leash. I don't know. She only knows of one prior incident with her dogs, but she followed the rules. You did not. Now, by not following the rules, you really placed your dog at risk. Because I've seen people with these expandable leashes, I don't know where they are. All of a sudden you see a dog coming down the street, and it's like a phantom dog. I don't think that was the situation here, but I think your dog was not tight in your control. I have to find that Miss Foley actually did something or was negligent with her animals, and she was not even according to you.
She absolutely was. She had no control over the attack.
She had control over her dogs. You had no control over your dog. Dog, child, youngster, is to have total control over that child to keep it out of harm's way. Because out of harm's way, and you did not.
I did.
Well, you think you did. I say you didn't. I say that your dog was a little too far ahead of you, and I don't even think that your dog necessarily ran up and bit her dog in the nose. I'm not sure about that. But I think your dog ran up to her dog, and her dogs were under her control, and your dog was not, so that you couldn't immediately pull it back before it got to her, before it got to her dog. Because I read your statement. According to you, you saw her coming up the trail with 2 people.
And she didn't alert me that they're dangerous, and she was aware.
Negligent in handling her dogs. I can't force her legally to take care of your dog's medical expenses, especially when your dog was not close leashed within your immediate control.
2 extra feet is not the cause of the attack.
Maybe it was.
It was
Maybe
not.
if you're, Ms. Silverman, I'm not going to get into an argument with you. If I were walking my dog, and I have dogs, I know the capacity of pit bulls to be dangerous. Don't send me mail. I'm not interested in your emails. Our dogs are very nice dogs. I'm sure there are lovely pit bulls to injure because of the way they are configured. I pick my dog up and
The 40-pound dog?
Listen to me. Or I pull it really close to me because you don't say her dogs came up to you and attacked you. Your dog was out there, and your dog was out there because you didn't exercise great judgment. And I'm not speaking from a legal perspective. I'm speaking to you from the perspective of a dog owner. If I see a very large dog and I have a very small dog, I don't let my dog run up to it and then say, is your dog friendly? That's like the old, does your dog bite? No, my dog doesn't bite. And you get bitten. He says, it wasn't my dog. He said, Peter Sellers. That was Peter Sellers. So your responsibility is when you see 2 dogs that you knew might be problematic, to rein your dog in. You didn't, and I don't know what the reason is, but I have to find that the defendant is in some way negligent, and her dogs were within her immediate control. Your case is. What makes you think courts are actually interested in these kind of drunk stories, where one drunk has another drunk drive his car, they're all in the car together, they're in an accident, the car is wrecked, and you actually think that courts are interested in that?
When we went out to the bar...
I don't want you to tell me your story.
Well, I'm not telling you your story.
What would make you think that...
Because we have a standing agreement that if we get too drunk, we take a cab home.
Why would you take your car anywhere and get drunk? Why didn't you just take a cab where you were going?
It's less expensive. If we plan not to drink that much, that's fine. We can dance,
Yeah, how
sober
old
up.
are you?
I'm 36 years old.
Yeah. Anyway, you went out drinking together. There was some sort of an incident at the bar. This drunk took you in the car to get you out of a bar where there was some sort of an incident. Is that right?
Correct.
And you got in the car. He was driving. You were drunk. So you really don't know what happened. So I can't ask you logically what happened because you can't relate. A thing that you do know is that he was driving your car drunk and the car was damaged or totaled. That's what happened?
Damage, yes. Well, Your Honor, that's why I have my girlfriend. She only had a drink.
I don't care, sir, actually. But the 2 of you look as if you shouldn't be drinking anymore. Actually, that's true. You really look as if you've had enough alcohol, Mr. Potts, for a lifetime.
Thank you.
No, I'm telling you the truth.
All right.
I'm not talking about eating. I'm talking about booze. You look like you had enough booze to last you for the next decade or so. I would knock off the booze if I were you. Were you in the car with him, drunk, when there was an accident?
Yes, Your Honor.
Were you supposed to be the designated driver?
No.
Who was supposed to be the designated driver? Don't look over there. Look over here. Who was supposed to be the designated driver?
I was originally gonna be...
Fine. That's the question. Yeah. Who got into some difficulty at the bar?
I did.
Because you spilled a drink on some woman?
Yes, Your Honor.
And was it right after that that you left the bar with Mr. Potts? Was your car hurt?
I actually brought photos of it.
I don't care photos. I said, how badly was it totaled? Was it
No, it wasn't totaled. The driver's side fender, driver's side door, and driver's side mirror.
What year car was it?
It's a 1995.
So I assume you had no collision insurance.
That's correct.
And where is the car now?
Parked out in the parking lot.
Did you drive it here?
Yes, I did.
So it's drivable?
It is drivable.
I would suggest that you not drive the car to a bar anymore. Goodbye.
Your Honor, I don't think that's fair.